And speaking of star power, we have the new commissioner of the Big Ten, Tony Petitti, with us. Great to have you, Commissioner. This is your first experience here of a Big Ten Media Days. I know you're transitioning here into this role. What has stood out to you here early on in your time as Commissioner of the Big Ten?
Yeah, this in general, like the first 90 days or so. First of all, thank you, Dave, for doing this. Great to be with you. But, you know, the first 90 days have just been a little bit of everything, to be honest. It's been working on schedules. It's been, you know, meeting my colleagues in the A5 and doing work across that, traveling, you know, down in D.C., spending time with our athletic directors and our coaches. So it's been everything. I had, you know, the great part was, like, we started just early enough to kind of get the tail end of the spring season. So that was great to be able to be there for those championships. And obviously the highlight for me personally was, you know, watching Northwestern win the championship in women's lacrosse. That was, you know, just a really great event to be part of. It was fun to be able to cheer and root, which you don't always get to do in this job.
Right. No, absolutely, yes. When they're playing for a national championship, you're free and clear, right? Unless they're playing against one another, and we can only hope for that scenario.
That's a separate good problem to have.
It would fall under the good problem to have category. I know among the things on your agenda kind of early on, it was covered pretty heavily, was wrapping up the TV deal. Bring us up to date. I mean, I saw NBC announced its schedule today, so that's a really encouraging sign. Again, we're getting a sense of where things fall into place. But give us a sense of, like, what needed to be done to get it done.
Yeah, there were sort of two things. One is just sort of the traditional, like, what I would call the last 15 pages of a long contract, which is, you know, really where the lawyers spend a lot of their time. And then there was some work that had to be, you know, worked out. What I would call in the first couple of pages of the contract was just some of the scheduling parameters and getting everybody to understand. And I think, look, it's not easy when you're balancing three partners and also BTN in terms of game selection. There's going to be a little bit of growing in how that works. But, you know, our partners are really, you know, eager to work well with the conference. I think the scheduling format that we chose, you know, maximizes the strength of the inventory and the depth of it. So those are all good things. And I think the next part is that when you think about a schedule, I've always felt, and I've done this for a long time in other jobs, that, you know, schedules are kind of living things. You just don't know where the great matchups are going to show up. And that's the beauty of a format where you could react on the fly and have a game that wasn't something that you expected to be there. And that happened I remember back in my ABC days, it happened with Northwestern on their Rose Bowl run. We didn't have them on our schedule at all going into the season in September. And they played multiple times that year as they earned their way on. I think, you know, our partners will see that, and that'll be a big part of it. So I think a lot of it was just, you know, the newness and a lot of questions, but we're in really great shape. Like, these are high-level problems that we have.
And you take over at such an exciting time. You mentioned the new TV deal, which we're all thrilled about, but also the anticipatory additions of USC and UCLA. A year from now, they will be at Big Ten Media Days. Give people a sense. I know for a lot of fans, they just, I mean, you're anticipating it, you're excited about it, but ultimately they just kind of show up on the schedule and here we go.
Right.
But I know there's just a ton that goes into it. So, like, what is that process right now?
Yeah, well, the first thing I just, when we put the football schedule out and you saw the USC and UCLA playing those Big Ten schools, like the traditional teams that we had, that was pretty eye-opening, right? That was the first time for me in the job. I said, wow, this is real. Like, look at the quality of these matchups, and all of a sudden, hopefully in short order, some of these matchups are going to create new rivalries as we go across. That was like the first, like, oh, wow moment. And then the rest behind the scene is actually, you know, football, to be fair, in the scheduling process is probably the easiest. Like, once we came up with a format, which was really done before I got there, it's now, you know, turning to the Olympic sports, men's and women's basketball, to make sure that we're just maximizing our schedule, you know, being cognizant of travel issues. What can we do creatively? And I will say that one thing also that I've learned in this, you know, this last 90 days is that every sport is different. Every sport's got its own playing format. Every sport's got its own particular, you know, conference postseason, or not in the case of volleyball. So it's just a very, you know, different thing, and you have to sort of treat each one individually and try to get to the best place. And look, our coaches have a lot of say in each of those sports. Our SWAs, like, it's a very collaborative process. It
was very interesting to listen to you in your remarks today, kind of talk about the landscape of college sports, and you used a term which I don't know that I had heard really used in that context. You were talking about NIL, and you used the term true NIL. So give me a sense as to what you mean by true NIL and what you're hoping to accomplish in that sphere.
Look, to me, true NIL is the ability of a student athlete to use their name, their likeness, their performance on the field, the exposure they receive from our institutions, to use that to create value for third-party companies, local businesses, you know, national businesses. That could be using the power of their social media, whatever it might be. But the key there is that sort of third-party relationship where they're being rewarded for the reach and they're really actually promoting something valuable, whether it's a product, a service, or a reputation of a company. That's a great thing. And I use, like, look, Caitlin Clark, we have student athletes in our conference that have huge power and the ability to do that. It's not an easy thing to accomplish, though, to be able to, use that and mean a lot for national brands. Fortunately, we have athletes that can do that, so we should celebrate that. The same thing with local. Generate as much revenue as you can there. I think there's some things that we can do to make sure that when they're going through that true NIL process, that there's some protections, like whether it's registering agents, some of the things that you've seen President Baker talk about, some transparency. I think that's important to protect the student athletes while they're in that process, but I don't mean that to say that they should be governed in how much they can make. That's what true NIL is. It was what was intended by the law, and we respect that, and we want that to happen. At the same time, what's going on away from that and being lumped in as NIL really isn't NIL. It's basically, money being funneled for, which is classic inducements and pay for play.
So what would you say to someone who says the horse is out of the barn and running across the pasture on that? I mean, can you pick your metaphor? Can you put the toothpaste back in the tube here with because that is what's going on, right? I mean, there are, we all know that. It's
a great question. That's where the collaboration comes into play, because it has to work for everybody. We all need to be able to compete under the same system. So the first thing is you have to be like-minded and make sure that we're all trying to accomplish the same thing across not only the A5, but beyond that as well, to make sure that we're doing those things across all sports. So I do believe, though, that we can enforce our rules, and it does not mean that what we're trying to do is take benefits away from student athletes. Like, there are ways to provide additional benefits inside the system, and I think that's where we're sort of headed. Is like, what can we do, to potentially give student athletes more, better care, the opportunity to make more, still respecting the academic model, but do that within the system as opposed to doing it away from the system with no control, no Title IX connection. I just don't think that's where we want to be, and I don't think in the long haul that system is going to be. It's going to be sustainable, and it's going to be great for student athletes. I don't believe that. So I think we need to get control back, and that starts with enforcing your rules.
I need to ask you about a story that has underlied the Big Ten here over the last few weeks. It really dominated the college football media landscape, and that, of course, is the hazing situation at Northwestern. To what extent is the conference office working with Northwestern, in contact with Northwestern, just help people understand how that relationship works in a crisis?
Yeah, and that's part of my learning curve in this role, in terms of what the role as a commissioner when something like this unfortunately happened. And so the first thing is to understand what they're doing and have that communication. So we've had that from the conference office, being aware of what they're doing next and what they're planning to do and being part of that process. In this space, in college athletics, those decisions are made by the member institutions. And so our job is to say, these are what our standards are. This is what we expect across not only the Big Ten Conference, all of our members, that we really want these safe environments for student athletes. There's no controversy there. And provide resources to make sure that's happening. So to me, it's then sort of focusing on how can we help Northwestern going forward. And I think what you saw this morning from Coach Braun, his performance this morning, and under very difficult circumstances, and the way he addressed the media today, I thought should give a lot of confidence to Northwestern fans, and obviously most importantly their student athletes. That I thought he was his tone was perfect, and what he said and the messaging, I think, couldn't be better. So I think when you ask, the priority of the conference is, what are we doing going forward? Right? I mean, obviously, hazing has no place in college athletics, right? We all understand that. We just got to make sure that we have, the right systems in place and the right emphasis.
New Commissioner of the Big Ten, Tony Petitti, thanks so much for taking a few minutes out.
Dave.
Really looking forward to working with you here in the days and years to come.
Yeah, same here. Always good to be with you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Excited to be here, as always, and we are excited to be joined by their head coach, Kirk Ferentz, 25th year at the helm of the Hawkeyes. I believe that's a quarter of a century. Jerry's going to check the math for me. He's going to. Will you get back to me by the end of the segment?
Why'd you ask Jerry about that?
He's the brains of the operation. You know that.
In 4.5 years, I'll be able to confirm the 75.
Love it.
Coach, how do you keep it fresh every year?
I don't think I have to. I think it's just the world we live in. It just changes continually. I think all of us know that, and especially college football, it's just changed so dramatically. So there's always something to pay attention to, and then the other part is just your team changes over every year. So it's always a new challenge, a new journey, and I think that's what makes it fun.
We were talking about your team there on that Outlook panel, and it's no secret that the offense did struggle, and it seems like the decline in the offense these last couple of years has correlated to a decline in the run game. So I'm just curious, kind of, where do you feel like the O-line is? Where do you feel like the backs are heading into this year.
Yeah, believe it or not, at one point up until the last 2 years, we've done okay.
Yeah, no
offensively,
doubt.
But you'd never know that listening to the narrative. So, really, I think in a nutshell, two things. Having Cade join our program has really been a key for us. He's a proven winner as a quarterback, and it's hard to have a good offensive team without a quarterback. But really specific to your question, I think the real key, the last 2 years, our offensive line just hasn't been where we would like it to be. And I can go through a litany of reasons why. I'm not going to bore you with the details. But the good news is I really feel coming out of spring ball that we might legitimately have 8, maybe even 9 guys competing for a starting job. And we haven't had that in a couple of years. And for us to be successful over the long haul, our standard of play has got to be good up front. It takes good quarterback play, and then everybody else has to do their job too. And I think we're closer to where we want to be, but nobody's running from last year.
Coach, you mentioned Cade McNamara, and I don't know that this is specific to him, but portal guys in general. Do you ever ask them what they've done at the previous school? Is there anything to learn from them, whether it's X's and O's? Do you sit with them one-on-one with the head coach and talk about stuff like that?
Yeah, I really don't, Jerry, and that's probably a missed opportunity on my part, but I'm in some ways, I'm just more curious about what we're doing.
Yeah.
I've asked them some specific questions, mainly because, they really came alive the year he was playing, 21 and then 22. Right. So I was curious about that. I was very curious and a great respect for them both the last 2 years. They've just had outstanding football teams, especially on offense. But, I've heard things, through the media when he gets interviewed about differences, those types of things. All I know is we're just glad he's on our team, and he's just such a quality person, first of all. First of all, he's a strong leader. And then, obviously we had firsthand experience playing him out here a year ago, December. We were believers just watching him throughout the season on crossover film. But, as you know, when you're on the field with a guy, you get a different feeling, and we're just thrilled he's with us.
Dave asked you earlier about how you keep things fresh, right? And you answered that. But I thought one of the things that I think is interesting is how do you stay dialed in as a coach with everything that's changing in college athletics? Because you started out doing things one way, but you're constantly having to adjust. Is that an easy process for you? Is that something that you embrace?
I think you have to embrace it. If you don't, you won't be around. There's no things aren't going away. Certain things aren't going away. And I don't know what it's going to look like 3 years from now. 3 months from now, or 5 years, and we'll worry about that when we get to it. But right now, we are really going through a period of change, and I'll go back to last December. If you guys come in and say they're going to leave, that type of thing, you almost feel like you're rejected a little bit, like your girlfriend's breaking up. But I also just kind of regrouped and thought about some of the guys that have joined our program over the last couple of years, whether it's a guy like Jack Heflin from Northern Illinois, Mekhi Sargent came from Iowa Western, Zach Van Valkenburg, and what those guys brought to our team. And I'm looking, so maybe we have an opportunity to bring more guys like that to our program. And that was kind of our goal, is we want to get guys that we really thought this was going to be an opportunity for them, and appreciative of that opportunity. And I think all the guys that we brought in, that's one thing I can say with confidence right now. I really feel good about the way guys have fit in with our program.
Coach, as you know, you've been doing this longer than anybody else, because that's how everybody always introduces you. So to stay in the same line with Howard's question, what are some of the positives? What are the changes that have been recent that you embrace, that you really like, that you think is good for the game long term?
Yeah, I think too the problems or things we're all concerned about are the NIL and transfer. Yet there are positives in both of those. I don't know. I don't want to speak for anybody else. I'm not against either of those things, but I think it has to be done in a logical way. And spending 6 years in the NFL, they had a system that worked, and everybody knew the rules. Are they perfect? Certainly not. The running backs in the NFL right now are not real happy with their lot in life. But at least it was all agreed upon, and then everybody operates by those rules. I struggle right now. I'm a little cloudy on what some of the parameters are when it comes to NIL. I think, part of our problem is we didn't share enough when the revenue started increasing. We were too slow to react to that, we in college football. So I think that's probably added fuel to that fire. But players should be rewarded. They should be part of this process. And, if there's a way to do that, I'm all for that. I think it's a great thing. But it'd be nice if there was transparency. It'd be really nice if there was structure. We don't have either of those right now. A lot of embellishment, a lot of exaggeration. And then on the transfer thing, I think, the one-time transfer is a great idea. But, there's it can't be one, then one, then one. It's really interesting. But all that being said, the other thing, there's the door's been open for tampering, opened wider, and I don't think that's a good thing for us.
You don't have any confidence that Congress is going to solve this, right?
Yeah. So
Yes, moving on.
at least there's good discussion right now. The one thing I will share, when I read an article last week, I was really interested to see, and I don't know the players involved, but apparently it's two from one party, another from another, one extremely liberal, as I understand it, one very conservative. So it's just good that people are talking to each other, and that's something our whole country's lacking right now. So if this brings on a better country, then I'm all for it.
When you think about your team, a lot of people want to focus on what didn't happen offensively for you. What are some of the things, other aspects of your team outside of offense that you want to see moving into training camp?
Well, it's like every year, you have a new team, and we lost a couple of really good linebackers, obviously, 3, but with that, the leadership. And this is an advantage of the portal, so you lose a guy like Jack Campbell, who's an unbelievable player, leader, all that. I'll say the same thing about Seth Benson, even though Seth looks more like me than he does Jack, but he obviously played a lot better than that. 2 really, really strong leaders in our program. And we're really excited to have Nick Jackson join us, and it worked out beautifully. From the time we got to know him a little bit and his parents, it was clear like he was going to help us with that leadership void. It's one thing to lose production, but that leadership void too. So that's something we tried to be aware of in the process. And I'm just, that's probably my biggest concern. We had tremendous leadership last year. We're whatever we were, 3-4, I believe, and it was an ugly 4. But our guys showed a lot of character. They fought through that and finished up so strong. Doesn't happen by accident. You have the right people involved, and we lost some of those right people during the wintertime to the draft. So now it's a matter of bringing that level up.
Really quick question: Is it different learning the families and the players going through the portal than it is talking with the high school players that you've had a chance to maybe develop a relationship junior and senior year?
Yeah, I'd say this. Even the high school process has changed so much. I don't do near as many home visits as we used to do, and if we do, it's all after the fact because things are pretty well done in June. A lot of it's done in June, and as Jerry can tell you, we can't go out until December for home visits. I really miss that component because you learn so much, home visits, school visits. So we still do a few of them, but it's almost like we had more opportunity that way with the transfer guys because their parents came with them on campus, got to spend a lot of time with them, and you learn so much that way. So it is a big part of the process, certainly, but that's one of my concerns about the way we are recruiting right now. We, in a sane world, you wouldn't be making decisions the way we do them as early as we do them, but it's the world we live in, so it's one more thing you have to adjust to.
All right. Well, we've been living in a not particularly sane world for quite some time, so. Right? I'm just saying.
You got about 5 more minutes.
I don't know. I don't know. It came out of nowhere. Yeah. Kirk Ferentz, always a pleasure. Yeah. We'll see you coming up here in a few weeks. Looking forward to visiting Hawkeye Camp. Always great hospitality.
Appreciate the job you guys do, and we'll look forward to seeing you here in a couple.
All right.
Thanks,
Kirk. Keaton, Ellis, Olu, Fashanu, Adisa, Isaac, all here representing the Nittany Lions. Guys, thanks for taking the time. Really good to see you. I want to start with you, Keaton, but I'm going to ask all of you. It really was a good year last year, and so how do you carry forward that momentum? What did you take from it that you could build on this year?
Definitely, we had a great season, and then rolling into the spring ball and summer, just staying consistent, with the work that we put in, through the off season. And the thing for us is just be consistent, get better every day, going into camp, try and, find out what kind of team we are in camp. And I'm really excited, for this season.
Olu?
Yeah, the number one thing for us is just not being complacent. As you said last year, we had a great end of the year last year, but we know that this year we can be a lot better than what we were. So the key is for us to not be complacent, stay consistent in our craft and whatever we do. And at the end of the day, I think it'll all pay off.
Yeah, like they said, just not being too high or too low. Taking it one game at a time, focusing on the little details because that's kind of what separates the great from the elite. So just focusing on the small things and making sure we take advantage of that for the offseason and camp.
So, Olu, I'm going to start with you on this question because you said you can be better. The only way you can be better in terms of wins and losses, frankly, is to beat Ohio State or Michigan. They have been standing in Penn State's way here for a few years. How much do you talk about and focus on those games?
Obviously Ohio State and Michigan, two great teams, great programs, but at the end of the day, our mentality is just to keep it 1-0, just be focused on what we have ahead of ourselves. So for us right now, it's all about finishing this week off strong with our workouts, then heading into camp with the fresh mindset of just going out and competing. Then when the time allows it, all of our focus is going straight to West Virginia.
Adisa, do you think about those games in the offseason? I understand the point of, hey, we got a lot of games to play, to your point, before we get to those guys. But do you think about those games? Do you think about the elite teams in your division that you got to get past?
Obviously, you keep those teams in mind, but like he said, it's really a 1-0 mentality. That's kind of how you get to those games and be able to have success in those games by just taking it week by week. But they're definitely in our minds, and we're gonna focus on them when the time is right.
Olu, you're the representative of the offense here. This offense really grew by leaps and bounds last year.
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
it was far better than it had been the previous year. Where did you see the biggest improvement?
I would say, me personally, I think we improved all the way, all around, across the board. Obviously, our run game, we put a ton of emphasis into that last year, and thankfully it paid off, and that just shows the amount of work that Coach Jer'Zhan and the entire offense put in throughout the offseason in terms of, again, just finding out where we went wrong the previous season before and building on it and improving on it, and thankfully, again, we were able to improve.
I want to talk to your teammates about the defense that they play on. It was an elite group a year ago. It's been elite for a while now. You had a new defensive coordinator in Manny Diaz. Give me a sense, Keaton, about what you liked about his plan for your defense and the way that you went forward and executed it.
Yeah, I think Manny does a great job of just understanding, the personnel that he has, and using it to the best of the ability for the defense. And we're just fast, aggressive defense. We're very deep. That's one of the main points. We rotate a lot. We got a lot of depth at every position, and we're just really excited to watch.
Adisa, what would you add on the defense and Coach Diaz?
Just his coaching style, the energy he brings to all of us, and like he said, the personnel we have on defense is depth and talented all over the defense, so that also helps a lot. But just the energy and juice that he brings really gives us a spark to show our talents.
You've got a new position coach this
Yes,
year in Deion Barnes, who of course has a deep history with this program. A young guy taking over coaching a position that's been such a strength for Penn State. Tell us a little bit about him and what he brings as a coach.
I mean, Coach Barnes has always been there. He's been in the background. He doesn't get a lot of credit, but he has played a big part in a lot of the D-line success over the years, and I'm glad that he's now getting his shine as the defensive line coach for Penn State, and it's only going to get better from here.
I always love to get to know the players who are up here personally. Your story's amazing to me, right? You grew up in State College. Your dad played for Penn State. You literally went trick-or-treating in a Penn State number 2 jersey.
That's crazy.
And now you wear number 2 for Penn State.
Right.
I mean, what has it been like as someone who grew up going to these games, idolizing Penn State football players, to be not just on the team, but a captain of the team and a really good player?
Yeah. So it's been a really crazy journey for me. Growing up very early, I had my mindset, on what I wanted. And so just, through hard work and support of my family and friends, and, I was able to get the opportunity to come here and not only play, but, play well and, lead the team. So I'm just really thankful. It's been all God willing. So I'm just really thankful for just the opportunities that I've had.
Olu, interested in your story. You would have been a first-round pick almost certainly in the NFL had you come out last year. What prompted you to come back?
Yeah, obviously. So with Penn State, these last 3 years have been great for my family and I. We're super appreciative of everything that Coach Franklin and the staff has done for us. But going into this season, having the opportunity to graduate a semester early in a degree in supply chain, coupled with another opportunity to suit up with all my brothers, made that decision to come back a lot easier than most would expect.
Tell me about supply chain. I mean, I think there's going to be some NFL for you before supply chain, but tell me what that is and what interested you about it.
Yeah, so supply chain is basically just the entire process from sourcing supplies from suppliers and the process of getting those supplies to manufacturers and from manufacturers to distributors, and getting obviously those products to consumers. So it's just that entire general process. And what excited me about it was that it's really broad. It's a really broad area. So which can be a good and bad thing because it'll be hard to really like specify on what you want to do. But it was just something that interested me a lot.
That's great. It's a term we all became familiar with post-COVID. I'm sure you had some pretty interesting case studies with that.
Yeah.
Adisa, your story has been so well documented. The Journey did an unbelievable piece on you and your family. Your mom's a single mom. You have 3 siblings, all of whom have special needs.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about kind of the role that you play in your family as, I mean, obviously this incredible achiever, and then kind of how your siblings look up to you and watch you and just give people a sense of that family dynamic if they didn't see the piece.
Yeah. So I play many different roles. Growing up, I've played the big brother, I've played the little brother, I've played the uncle, I've played the father. I'm kind of fitting in where I need to fit in at, and I feel like that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to be there for my family, be there for my mom, and help her with whatever she needs help with. And God has blessed me with many talents, and this being one of them, I'm glad that I'm able to, give my story out there to many, because obviously it's very unique, and I've been through a lot of tough times and times that a lot of people get stuck in, and I'm just glad and grateful for just being here today.
How do you think that has shaped the person that you are?
It shaped me a lot. I feel like like I said, the tough times really just made me learn how to dig out of a hole. A lot of people, they get down and depressed, but I've kind of used that and learned how to turn a lot of my negative situations into positive, and I've carried that along with me to this day, whether that's rehabbing or whether that's schoolwork, just having that grittiness to keep going and try to make a good out of something bad.
That's an amazing story. You're to be commended for it. I want to ask you all about the quarterback. And you have a different perspective, and you have a different perspective than you would.
Yes.
So let's start with the guy who's in the huddle with him. Tell me about Drew Aller and how he has adapted to kind of being in this position he's going to be in as the leader, or one of the leaders anyway, of this offense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Drew's done a great job. I mean, ever since Sean left, there's kind of a, people thought that there might have been a void, but Drew stepped in completely. But at the end of the day, not only has Drew stepped up, but the rest of the quarterbacks have stepped up. They've done a great job this offseason and just perfecting their craft. They're super hardworking, and I'm really excited for them.
What about as a defensive back, when you see the ball that he throws and whatnot, what stands out?
He's impressive. He has great accuracy. And I think, like along with what Olu said, is the quarterbacks they're all pushing each other and making each other better, and that's what you want to see in a quarterback room. So I'm just excited for all our guys, and Drew too. So he's just an incredible guy, smart kid, and can make all the throws. So I'm just excited.
A lot of focus on the quarterbacks. I want to ask you about the running backs though as well. I mean, Singleton and Allen, big-time guys to be blocking for. Give us a sense of the confidence that it gives you to be blocking for those guys. And then, Deion, I'm interested in your thoughts on trying to bring them down. But Olu, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean...
Or Adisa, I'm sorry. But, yeah, Olu, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, the running backs we have, Nick and Cade, I mean, they're just amazing. They're amazing guys. Again, not only amazing players, but again, just great guys in general. Again, super hardworking, very talented, very detail-oriented, and again, I'm really excited for them. And it just shows the amount of hard work that Coach Sider's put into that running back room. Again, you see the way that they've been working since up in January with winter workouts, all the way through spring ball, all the way up until now with summer workouts. I'm really excited to be blocking for them during camp and later on in the season.
All right, Adisa, what's it like to try to tackle those guys?
They're two different players. They kind of complement each other, so it's picking your poison. Either you want to take a bad angle and miss Nick, or you want to get your feet stuck in and miss K-Tron. So you have to pick your poison at times with them, but they're making everybody better, and they're going to be they're a lot much more mature than you think for their age, and they're going to make us all better.
This was a real pleasure. Adisa Isaac, Olu Fashanu,
yes,
and Keaton Ellis. Great to have the three of you up here. Really,
thank you.
Really proud of watching you guys play that season last year, and looking forward to what this season holds here for Penn State.
Thank you.
Thanks, fellas.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All the coaches have already addressed the media today. Here's what Coach Schiano had to say. I can honestly tell you I've never been more excited to be the head coach at Rutgers University, and he's been the head coach at Rutgers University for a while, 15 years, right? If you count the two different stints.
Yeah, that's accurate.
Yeah.
He said, "Yep, that's me."
Yeah.
And not a gray hair in his head.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
unbelievable.
These are my Rutgers grays right here, Jerry. Don't give me that.
Hey, Coach, offense has been a challenge here these last couple of years. You made a change there. Kirk Ciarrocca, someone you're very familiar with. Give us a sense of how that is going to move this offense forward.
Yeah, I'm just grateful that he's back. You know, he's a guy I know very well, and it's a good thing because the job of a head coach has changed so much in the last even year, and the way our time is used. Kirk is a senior guy, you know, a guy that's can lead the room, great teacher, schematically knows what we want to do, and I'm thrilled to have him back.
How do you get from where you are right now to where you want to be? Obviously, you believe that a new coordinator was part of that equation. What else do you need to do on that side of the ball to be the offense you want to be?
Well, you need to continue to develop in the offseason, which we did physically. I think, you know, one of the things in the way Kirk runs the offense is cumulative repetitions over and over and over again. We're not going to be doing a ton, but what we do, we better do well. So I think we're going to get better. And I think we have some good players that, you know, were young and now aren't so young, and that's the development part, where now they're starting to be Big Ten level players, and now they got to go out and do it.
Where did Gavin show the most progress in the spring?
Just understanding, seeing the picture, right? He's always had the big arm. He's always very athletic. But knowing where to go with the ball and where to go there quickly, I think that was the biggest development.
Coach, you talked about from the podium that having veteran coaches allows you to do so many other things that you really didn't have to focus on in previous years. What are some of those things that you now have to focus on as a head coach?
Well, when I came back, you know, I was committed to spending more time with the players and not as much time locked in the meeting rooms with the coaches. So I was living that already, but what occurred is a lot of that time now is used on NIL and raising money for NIL. And, you know, that stuff takes time. It doesn't happen overnight, at least doesn't at our place, and I have to work at it. So really grateful to have not only Kirk Ciarrocca, but Joe Harasimiak leading the defense.
What are the positives about all the changes that have occurred in college football? What have you embraced the most? NIL seems to be a problem for a lot of people, and the governance, but is there something that you like better about college football now, maybe than when you got into it?
Yeah, the thing I like is that players are getting compensated. I've said that for 20 years. I thought it was ridiculous that they weren't getting a bigger piece. I mean, you remember when you said you could have bagels, nuts, and berries, but you couldn't have the cream cheese.
Right, you couldn't have the cream cheese.
What are we talking about, right? Now we're worried about how do we get the kid 100, 150, 200, right?
The problem is the same people are running the operation.
You said it, not me. All right, I got enough enemies. Don't be doing that to me, Jerry.
Coach, people judge programs wins and losses, right? How do you judge your program where they're moving to? Because from a coach's perspective or a player's perspective, it's not just about those wins and losses. How do you just gauge where you are and where you need to be as a program?
Well, you have to be confident enough in your ability to see that, right? Sometimes coaches, they start to imagine we're better than we are. Like I'm very realistic with where we are. Having a guy like Kirk sitting there who we both sit there and go, okay, this isn't going to be good enough to win in the Big Ten. We got to figure something out there. But it doesn't matter because the people that are judging you are the fans, right? Your boosters and those kind of things. And it still comes down to winning and losing. You know, and I've said that my whole career. Everything is great. All the icing on top is great. The academic achievements but you better win games, otherwise you don't get to do it too long.
But you still have to get your players involved, even if there are challenges that you may have on the field, which come in losses. You still have to be able to motivate those guys through that process. So I'm always interested in how coaches are able to keep the young people engaged and saying, hey, we're heading in the right direction. We're okay. We're doing it the right way.
Well, I think it all comes down to who you recruit. Are those guys that fit your culture? Because our culture is about chop, and that's exactly what it is, right? You go out and you win a game, you got to show up the next day ready to chop. You go out and lose a game, you better show up ready the next day to chop. Certain young people aren't wired that way. So you better select the right guys. They better have it in them, and now you're just going to develop that.
I know you've been chopping away a lot on that offensive line. It is an area where you've had some challenges. It looks like you have more experience there. How have you seen that group evolve here, and where is it right now in terms of where it needs to be to compete in the Big Ten, as you were saying?
Yeah, it's the best we've been. But again, that's not the measuring stick. The measuring stick are the people that we have to go out and play and win games against. So we're better. Pat Flaherty is on board with us as our O-line coach, who's a long-time NFL coach, and I GA'd for him back in the late '80s. So I have a long history with him, but I'm really pleased with the way we're developing. And we had a great offseason. I think the guys are physically more mature. Yeah, but it's a key element, no doubt.
Coach, you made a comment today. I know we don't want to talk about 2 years from now, but your schedule, the first year of the expansion, isn't any different than it is right now, and you're in the tough East. I mean, you don't play you play 6 of the 7 Eastern teams, but that's got to be a positive. I know it's not something that we think about now, but in a couple years, in that second year of that schedule, things get better for perhaps the people that have not been really competitive in the East.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think when people asked me about when it came out, I said, really, there's no difference in the first year. What's the difference? I don't see any difference. But yes, as you look at it down the line, it begins to change. Again, I love this conference, and I'm not one of those, let's play. I love whoever they schedule, we're going to play. But I love that Rutgers is in the Big Ten Conference. It's where we belong, and I've felt that for a number of years, so I'm grateful for the opportunity.
I remember you saying that before you went to the NFL.
Yep.
We were talking a little bit about the offense. The defense was a great story. Certainly at the beginning of last year, you were really playing at an outstanding level. It faded a little bit down the stretch. But you got a ton of experience coming back defensively. How do you get it to a point where it is consistent, where you're playing late in the year the same way you were playing early in the year?
I think we're on our way. I think what happened is you go through the year and they get worn down, right? And we weren't really performing well on offense, so they're out there for a lot of plays.
Yeah.
And you get a few injuries, and we don't have the depth where our second is ready to go and jump in and there's no drop-off. Now, we're better now than we were a year ago. So we've developed depth, and I think that's going to be critical. But I'm excited about the defense. The whole defensive staff remained intact. They're back together. They have a special chemistry. It's a great group of coaches, and I think the chemistry they have with our players on that side of the ball could be something big for us.
Coach, you mentioned the schedule for a couple of years from now, but this year's schedule, the opener is fascinating to me because we know the turmoil the Northwestern has been experiencing. You play them. I think for years you kind of knew exactly what to expect with Northwestern because Pat Fitzgerald had a way of doing things. Now you have a new guy in charge in David Braun. How do you prepare for that uncertainty maybe of what you're going to face in the opener?
I don't think it's much different than what we were preparing for because, Coach Bajakian runs the offense, and he's still there. And then when they made the change at defensive coordinator, they were going to run that defense. I was very convinced of that, all the intel that I had. Well, now that he's the head coach, I think they're even more so going to run that defense, right? So it actually may have even cleared up some for us with that, but who knows, right? The reality is I got to make sure that our team's ready to play on the third. We're going to line up. We're going to play split safety defense. We're going to play single high. We're going to run inside zone, and we're going to throw the ball down the field. We got to be able to do that.
Well, you just told them what you're going to do. Right?
It might be on tape.
Yeah. Guess what? That's what we're doing. How's that?
Yeah. Might be on tape for the last 20 years.
Eliminated any of the mystery. What about the notion of playing on Sunday in that first game? There's very few games nationally. You're going to largely have that window to yourself. Certainly in terms of major conference games, you'll have that window to yourself. What does that mean for Rutgers, having that game on campus, all of the stuff that comes with it?
Yeah, the way coaches think, right? You love the fact that you're the only show on town, noon on Sunday, and then fast forward, you have a 6-day work week to get ready for the next one. So, great on Sunday, not so great on Wednesday. How's that?
All right, fair enough. Greg Schiano, head coach of the Scarlet Knights. Always a pleasure. Look forward to seeing you when we head out to Piscataway, Coach.
Yeah, thank you, fellas.
Thanks, Coach.
We spoke with Kirk Ferentz earlier. Here's the schedule facing his Hawkeyes this year. You see no Michigan, no Ohio State in the crossovers. They do go to Penn State. Of course, the great rivalry game with Iowa State for the Cyhawk. You'll see that in week 2 on Fox. And very pleased to have 3 of the Hawkeyes with us right now. Some guys that you saw in those highlights. Cooper DeJean with a big interception there. Jay Higgins, linebacker, joining us. Luke Lachey, we saw you score a touchdown there. Great to have the 3 of you here. I want to start with this. This is the place you all want to get to, right? Everyone wants to be back in Indianapolis. Iowa was here 2 years ago, fell a little bit short last year. What do you guys focus on? What needs to be different this year to make a return trip, Cooper?
Yeah, I think just trying to be better than we were last year, and I think we brought some guys in that'll help us out with that. Obviously, you talk about Cade, Nick Jackson on the defensive side. I think those are two great guys, along with the other guys that we brought in, and the guys that we still have. I think just focusing on this summer, getting better, bigger, faster, stronger. That's what we harp on at Iowa, and I think a lot of guys are hungry this season.
Jay, interested in your take on that. How do you make that jump back?
Definitely. We're just going to start 1 week at a time. We came off a really good summer program. It starts with the fall program coming up next. And, we're trying to get better every rep, try to get better every practice. And the closer we become as a team and we value the importance of the coaching staff and really leverage them, I feel like we'll be where we want to be.
Luke?
Yeah, I think these guys answered it really well. It's just – coming together as a team, getting a lot of new guys on offense, and the guys coming back. It's been a great addition, and I'm very excited for it.
Jay, I think it's pretty cool for you as a Indianapolis kid to be back here. You're the only one that we're going to see today who's from Indy.
Yeah.
What does that mean? What does it mean to you to be representing Iowa here in your home city?
It's great to be back. Funny enough, I actually saw my mom, my dad, my sister, my niece. I don't know how they got in the building, but Cooper and Lachey were both able to see my parents, and it just lets you know how blessed I am to be in this situation. Love coming back home, and to do it for Big Ten Media Day is honestly a blessing. Really
cool story. Thrilled for you. I want to focus a little bit on the offense, and Luke, you're the guy to talk about that. We know this offense has to be better. I don't think anyone associated with Iowa would deny that. How can you make that jump? Like, what have you seen from the offense this year that gives you confidence that it's going to be better than it was a year ago?
Yeah, I just think that, the changes we've made so far going into the spring and now in the summertime, I think that, Brian Ferentz has done a great job just helping us get into the right spots and, make plays. And so that's the biggest thing. And then, obviously, you got guys coming back and new guys coming in that are really going to help the team out. So I think that, we're going to have a good year, and I'm really confident for it.
I was impressed with how you guys came together last year. I think it's really hard when you have a team where one side of the ball isn't playing well, frankly, and everyone kind of knows it, and yet it felt like you guys got closer and got better as the year went on. So I want to ask you, Cooper, how did you kind of keep that focus and remain a cohesive unit and win some games there down the stretch?
Yeah, we understand it's a team game, and everybody complements each other. And these offensive guys know that we have their back as a defense, And as a defense, we're just going to go out there, each and every drive and try and stop the offense and do our job. And that's what we focus on.
How about from your perspective, Jay?
Definitely. Just taking it one snap at a time. Obviously, just want to put the offense in the best situation as possible. And, we have high standards defensively, so it doesn't matter if the offense scores 100 points. Our standards are still going to maintain the same.
So let's put last year behind us. Let's move ahead to this year. And, again, you were saying, Luke, you feel a lot of confidence is going to be a better group. I know a lot of the headlines, look, quarterback is just the position that gets a lot of headlines, right? But Cade McNamara is a winner. He knows what it takes. He's played in the Big Ten championship game as a quarterback. What has he brought, Luke? Give us a sense of who he is and what he has infused this offense with.
Yeah, I think he's brought a lot of confidence. He goes out there, he knows what he's doing, and he's telling everyone else what to do. I think that's the main thing. And no one guy can go out there and lead a team to a win. It takes all 11 of us, and I think that everyone's really bought in and really excited for the year to start. Cade's a great player, and he's going to help us out and win.
I know he's been banged up, so you don't necessarily get a sense of exactly what's going on the field with him. But what have you seen in terms of leadership, Jay?
Yeah, just as a linebacker, I admire how he controls himself, how he handles the huddle, just how he's able to get his team, his offensive guys able to compete for him. And, he did what he could this spring. And I felt like he was in a good position where he could try to do what he could, but being smart about it.
Luke, I'm interested in the other side of the ball, and you have a unique perspective, right? Mm-hmm. As an offensive player at Iowa, you go against this defense every single day in practice.
Yeah.
From your point of view, what has made Iowa so consistently good defensively?
I think that they just do the little things right. It starts with Coach Parker and Coach Wallace and all the defensive coaches out there. I think that they just do a really good job of instilling the defense into these guys, and then they go out there and do the right thing. it's a great privilege to be able to practice against them every practice, and I'm excited for this fall camp. There'll be some more battles there.
I feel like Coach Parker doesn't always get the national recognition that he deserves, partly maybe because he's so happy at Iowa. He's not one of those guys who's dangling his name out there for another job. But Cooper, give us a sense of what you think makes him such a good coordinator.
Yeah, I think it starts with what he expects of our defense. He expects perfection from our defense, and that's what we strive for. He's a very intense guy. Our practices are really intense. We're hitting every single day. But just being in the meeting room with him, out on the practice field, just learning from him. He's a great coach, and it's an honor to play for him.
What's it like to have perfection expected of you?
It puts a lot of pressure on you, but that's what we love. So we just try to go out there and play our best each and every week.
And Jay, this linebacker crew was so good a year ago, and you're obviously replacing a lot of personnel there. You step into that void as one of the players who's going to, emerge as a preeminent force there on the defense. If history is to be our guide. What is that pressure like for you to kind of have this feeling of the next guy carrying that mantle?
I wouldn't call it pressure. I would just say it's another opportunity just to let everybody know who I am and what I'm capable of. I just want to use Coach Wallace and make sure I'm listening to him and also all the other guys in the linebacker room. I know I'm not out there by myself. I know I'm not the only one on the Iowa defense that's expecting a lot out of the season. So just using my teammates, making sure I can get the linebacker room to uphold the standard or even raise the bar. We got a lot of new faces in there. We got a lot of guys who are eager to get out there on the field, so excited to take the field with those guys.
Who are the names that you think that Big Ten fans ought to familiarize themselves with at the linebacker spot for Iowa?
I'd say the whole room. Jay Higgins, Nick Jackson, Kyler Fisher, Jaden Harrell, Carson Shire, Rex Roth. I mean, the list goes on. Just guys who are going to have an impact on the game, on defensively and special teams wise.
I like that you didn't leave yourself out. I like that a lot. Hey, Cooper, a year ago when we were at Big Ten Media Days, it was Riley Moss who everyone was talking about in terms of the defensive backs at Iowa. You ended up picking off 5 passes last year. You brought 3 of them back for touchdowns. You are getting a lot of attention now coming into this year. What is it like to have that spotlight shining on you?
It's cool, I guess, but I mean, I'm just focused on, what I can do this season to help this team win football games. I've been focusing on a lot on this offseason, just trying to be a better football player all around. And I think Riley Moss, as you mentioned, has helped out a lot with that. Just all the things I've learned from him, and Coach Parker as well. Just all the things I've learned, and trying to bring these younger guys in our DB room along as well.
Talk about following in big footsteps, and Luke, the tight end spot has been so good for Iowa for years now. You are in that spotlight. Eric will be in that spotlight as well this year. But what is it like to try to live up to that lineage of great Hawkeyes tight ends?
Yeah, it's a really cool opportunity. Like Jay said, you just want to go out there and help the team win, and just be the best player that you can be. I feel like the rest will take care of itself. All those guys that have come before, are all great players. All did a lot of great things at Iowa, and are, have done a lot of great things in the NFL as well. And it's really cool to be able to, say you put on the same helmet as these guys did, and it's just really an honor to even be, at the same school as they were.
A lot of really cool stories here, obviously, for you playing at a school that has a great tight end tradition and someone who grew up rooting for another team in the conference, but now playing here for the Hawks. What was it like to go up against Ohio State last year, where, of course, your dad played and is the radio analyst? Yeah,
it was a cool moment. I enjoyed it. Obviously, the outcome, I didn't like it as much, but at the end of the day, it was all about the team. I enjoyed that aspect of it, but I just really was all focused on Iowa, and it was still cool though.
Love your story as well. Small town, Odebolt. Tell me about Odebolt, Iowa.
there's not much there, but I love it. About 900 people. So you kind of create your own fun as a small town kid in Iowa, growing up, just running around. It's surrounded by cornfields, so there's you can create your own fun in that aspect. But I really appreciate all the support I get from the people back home, not only in Odie but the 4 communities that my high school is made up of. So that means a lot to me.
You had a lot of doubters. I mean, it was South Dakota State and Iowa you chose between.
Yeah.
What does it feel like to be here and to prove those people wrong?
It's a dream come true. As soon as I got the Iowa offer, I knew this is where I wanted to be. Growing up an Iowa fan, being in Kinnick Stadium, watching those guys that came before me play. So it really is a dream come true, and it's been a lot of fun.
Cooper DeJean, Jay Higgins, Luke Lachey. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thanks very much.
Yep. Have a great year. Coach, really good to see you. I mentioned, look, 2 years ago, you guys were one of the great stories in college football. I mean, it was an amazing story. Yeah. Last year, you took a little bit of a step back. Yeah. So how do you process last year, put it behind you, and move into this year and try to recapture the momentum that you had?
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head. We learned from it, the coaches and the players, and then we moved on. And we start preparing for a new season. And so recruiting was a huge part of it. We needed to build depth at a lot of positions, and we addressed a lot of those needs. We had to develop the players that we had. You mentioned continuity on the coaching staff. We have that, and then we had some additions to the coaching staff with our new D-line coach, DeJean Reynolds, and Jimmy Salgado coaching the corners, guys with tremendous NFL experience, great coaches. This is the best coaching staff that we've had, top to bottom, since I've been there. And so it's been a great out-of-season for us, and we're ready to get started next week.
To outsiders, I think they would look at your quarterback spot and say uncertainty with Noah Kim, just because he hasn't played a whole lot. I know you have been raving about him to us in practice each of the last couple of years. So I know you have great confidence in him. But bring people up to date kind of on who he is, and then on that entire depth chart there, as much as you want to get into at quarterback and what it looks like.
Yeah, so Noah Kim is a winner. He knows our system. He understands our culture. He's very, very talented. He's got strong arm. He can make all the throws. He's hyper competitive, and he's very mobile. He was in the top 20 fastest players on our roster between our offense and defense. So he can really get it done in that way. And he's a guy who's going to be coachable. He's going to do what we ask him to do. He's not going to try to do too much. He's going to take what the defense gives him. If it's not there, he's going to run it, hit the check down, or knock a bear out of someone's hand in the stands and throw it away. So very confident in what he can do. But there is competition at that position. Caden Hauser going into his second year with us, coming from the West Coast. Tremendous arm talent. I mean, he makes throws in practice, and the coaches are looking around and saying, "Did you see that? Did he really do that?" And he's a big, strong kid. He's really, really competitive. He's smart. He's got a lot of confidence in himself, and he can make all the throws. And then Sam Levis, a true freshman, he just got here in June. He's from Oregon. His brother plays for the Packers. His dad played at BYU. He's got the pedigree. He's very, very confident. A lot of arm talent. He's extremely mobile. He's a big, strong kid. And so we're going to have really good competition. We're going to play the best player.
Coach, to go back to some of the changes you made after last year, sounds like you've cut back on your contact.
Yeah.
Tell us more about that, specifically some of the examples.
Yeah, well, we want to keep guys off the ground. That's important. We all know that when guys are on the ground in practice, that's when you get hurt. And so, how do you build a tough team and get the contact you need and keep guys off the ground and keep them safe? We just fell back on our NFL experience. As you know, in NFL, you can go weeks and weeks and weeks without hitting and then go play a game. You never see guys on the ground in practice. You never see guys taking guys down, dragging guys down. You never see that. And that's the way we practiced this spring. We got our hitting in. It was in controlled environments. Guys, they played to the whistle. And when it was over, it was over. We did the best job of staying up. It was very deliberate, very controlled, and it was very intense when we did hit. But it was clean, and we were able to get through the spring with minimal injuries.
Same thing in camp? Would you go back and...
Same thing in camp.
Any scrimmages at all?
Yeah, we're going to scrimmage, and we did in the spring. We're going to scrimmage. We're going to have 2 scrimmages before our game, and we're going to go live to the ground. Everybody's going to be playing fast, and it's going to be what it's going to be. I mean, football is a game of injuries. I mean, injuries are part of the game, but we have to do everything we can as a staff to minimize those, and we're relying on our experience to get that done.
Was that a byproduct of practicing hard and going to the ground early in your tender, part of just trying to create a different mentality and bring the team along as far as the toughness is concerned?
Yeah, I mean, we've always had you've seen those practices, very up-tempo, very physical practices, and they are still that way. Yeah. It's just that we had to modify. We had to take a hard look at some of the drills and say, do we really need to do this, and how often do we need to do it? And just give you an example, when you line up, receivers and defensive backs in some type of contact drill, we actually went as far as to script that and script the matchups and put, the smaller guys against the smaller receivers against the smaller DBs. Do I really need to see, a 6'3", 220-pound receiver go against a true freshman who just got there? Yeah. You know what I mean? And we know he's not going to be able to get it done. Do we really need to see that? And so we just had to be. It's more than hey, give me one line here, give me one line there. We had to just go in more detail, more scripting. Be more deliberate, and it worked out well. And the players, because we told the guys, this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it. But when we need you to go hard, you need to go hard, and that's what we did.
Coach, I think this is true. You were one of the first coaches that took your recruiting and had, and I think based on your NFL experience, a portal group and a high school group. Yep. So what adjustments have you made in your philosophy about the portal, the practicality of the portal since you first got to state?
Well, our first portal group was signed through Zoom, FaceTime, and over the phone because it was during COVID. And a lot of those guys, we didn't get a chance to lay eyes on them until they actually reported to campus and we checked them into housing. So we know a lot more about the guys that we're bringing in from the portal now. Even though it's a quicker process, we have our culture, we have our values, and if the players don't match up to our values and what we're all about, then we don't take them. And so we have a better quality of portal guys top to bottom than we've had in the past. And then with the high school recruiting, we have a new facility. We've had some success. The culture is established. So we're actually signing a lot more of the higher rated players, and we're not just going on rankings, but their film matches up to their rating. Right. We're getting more of those players. So it's just our recruiting efforts have been very, very strong, and the quality of the classes have gotten better and better, as we've gone.
And you've improved in the offense and defensive line too, and that's a big part of what you want to do to be tough and be physical up front.
Yeah, it was huge. We really wanted to get bigger on the offensive line, and so you have to recruit that way. And so we recruit bigger frames, guys that can grow into big guys, so that we can move people and control the line of scrimmage. And we went into the spring with 19 offensive linemen healthy. The spring before that, we went into it with 5 scholarship guys. Wow. On the defensive line, we've added inside on the defensive tackle spot, we've added 3 6'5", 300+ pound defensive tackles that have all played major college football, and we brought in 4 ends. And one of the portal guys we brought in was Adisa, walked in the door at 280 as a defensive end. So we had to get bigger up front on both sides of the ball, and we've done that.
Coach, you mentioned defense getting bigger on the defensive line. I mean, I think part of the story, and this is why you were talking about the injuries and staying up in practice and all that, is because you were so banged up last year, because you had so many different players play on defense. I realized that was part of why the defense, a huge part of why the defense maybe didn't perform to expectations. But aside from staying healthy and going into the portal and getting guys, like, do you feel like there are X and O things that you need to do differently to get the defense to where you want it to
be? We actually started to play better defense as the season went, as we started to get guys back, and we added some things to our scheme, especially on our third down packages, to put more pressure on the quarterback and have our rushing coverage working together. We have some players that have versatility, like Aaron Brule and Jacoby Winmine, guys that are linebackers that we could use in obvious pass rush situations where we could scheme those guys up, get them loose, get them one-on-one on the back and things like that. we began to do more of those things as we started to get more guys back. We're going to carry that into this season. So we have tweaked some things scheme-wise that I think fits the talent that we have.
How do you cut down on the big plays on defense?
Yeah, well, rush and coverage have to work together. That's important. Communication is big. You saw when Xavier Henderson was not there, that was an issue because you got to get guys on the same page. You got to get them lined up. So we really emphasize communication. We emphasize leadership. We emphasize, do your job first, then you can help out somewhere else. Eye discipline, all those things is critical, but it starts up front. If you can stop the run, make people one-dimensional, get pressure on the quarterback, it helps you tremendously in the back end.
Can I ask one more quick question?
You can do whatever you want to do.
Oh, I didn't want that.
There's the problem.
I mean, come on.
Here we go.
Here we go. Getting off script. Go ahead.
So, Coach, the game in Detroit, is that like a home game for recruits? Can they come into the stadium on the sidelines?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the answer to that is just yet. I just know it's a tremendous opportunity for our program. It's a national stage. In Detroit, we have a lot of alumni, a lot of fans in Detroit. We recruit hard in Detroit. College football all eyes are going to be at Michigan State on that day, and I think it's a tremendous opportunity for us.
Well, let's say it right now. Let's set the rules that we're allowed to do whatever if it was on campus.
Why not?
4-0 vote right here. Or 3-1. Rev, you with us?
Are you done?
I'm okay.
Done.
Someone in my ear says I better be done.
Yeah. Does anyone have anything else?
No, I think we're good.
Can I thank the nice man?
Please do.
I think I'm good.
Let him move on with this day. Mel Tucker, thanks a lot, Coach.
Yeah, thank you so much. Go Green.
Yep, absolutely. Looking forward to seeing you in the season to come. Marvin Harrison Jr. joining us along with Cade Stover, JT Tuimoloau. What's it like to look up? I mean, it is right there.
Right in the middle, yep.
Yeah. What's that like for you?
That's special. I was here when he got inducted into the Ring of Honor, and it's definitely a special moment just as a family.
Yeah. No, it has to be super cool. Guys, last year, I'm fascinated by how you put a season like that in perspective. At a place like Ohio State where the expectations are so high, you didn't win the Big Ten, you didn't beat Michigan, but you made the college football playoff, right, which is only 4 teams in the country that make that. There's so many teams which would give anything to be there. So, JT, put that season into perspective for me.
The season was filled with a lot of change of events, a lot of not knowings, but one thing we did especially after the Team North game was stay close, stay strong with the brotherhood, and came out and worked for the good, and we got a chance to compete. Didn't end the way we wanted to, but it did let us learn a lot about ourselves and our team, and showed us a lot of what we can do and what we're capable of.
Cade, how would you categorize last year?
It was a good year. Regardless of how it all ended up, nobody wanted that, but to see us come together and go through times like what we did go through, you figure out a lot about who you got with you, and we did. And we had a lot of good people with us.
Marvin, what has Coach Day's message been, both about last year and then as you move into this year?
Yeah, I think we just got to focus on the little things and execute better as a team. I think you look at those last 2 games, there's some small plays where we're just inches away from I think our season having a totally different outcome. So I think if we just focus on little things, get back to executing, and I think we'll see a different outcome this year.
Cade and Marvin, I'm really interested in Brian Hartline and his new role as the offensive coordinator. How have you seen him kind of grow into that role, and what does he bring that might be a little bit different?
You want me to answer that?
Yeah, you start, Cade. Then Marvin. Yeah.
He's done good. It's a really good mind. He's played the game, so when he says he thinks he has something that works for you, you listen because he's done it. So it carries a lot of weight with that. I think he's in a really good position to succeed with everybody we got with us. So I'm excited to see what he can do.
Marvin?
Yeah, I think we're still going to be aggressive as we always are with Coach Day. I think just like you said, like Cade said, he just knows he's played football. He's been in college, he's been in the NFL, so he understands everything and what it takes to be a successful offense.
This is considered, I would say, by many to be the best wide receiver group in the country. I don't know that you get many who would dispute that.
Right.
So it's kind of a two-pronged question. I guess, first of all, I want to ask you about Coach Hartline and just what it is about him as a recruiter that gets so many high-level guys to sign on.
Yeah.
And then I'm interested in the dynamic in that room. I mean, are you competing with one another? What is that? What's that like?
I think first with Coach Hartline, you relate to him. Like, he's been in our positions before. He's been in that receiver room. He's a receiver himself at Ohio State. and then like he's accomplished the goal that we all dream of, getting to the NFL. So I think we definitely relate to each other over time. And then in that receiver room, man, it's just such a brotherhood there. We all support each other. We're not really selfish or anything like that. If the ball doesn't come your way that game, your head's not down. You're just part of the guy who had a successful game that day. So we all help each other out, though.
Give us a sense for the quarterbacks. Kyle McCord, Devin Brown. You obviously know Kyle going a long way all the way to high school.
Yes.
It's kind of crazy. But interesting, again, for both the offensive players. Tell us about the QBs and their skill sets.
Yeah, I mean, they're competing. I think they kind of both know what's at stake. The job is open, having CJ leave us. But, yeah, like I said, they're competing. They're trying to get better each and every day. It's my job to make their job easier. If they can trust me to get open, catch the ball, and be where I'm supposed to be at the right time, then I think either one of them will be successable.
I think they're both very, very cut out for the job. I think we're in good hands either way right there. For me, as a tight end, just being a safety valve for them. When things break down quick, just know that they can trust number 8 and the rest of the tight ends in the room. So they're both very, very good players, and we're in good hands.
JC, there was a lot of focus on the defense going into last year, and it really got better. And then you got up in those last couple of games against kind of like talent, right? Really talented team in Michigan, obviously immensely talented team as well in Georgia, and the defense wasn't quite as good as it had been earlier in the year. So what the next step seems to be that when you get to equal talent, can you dominate? How do you get there?
Yeah, I think last year was just a preview of what we can do with Coach Knowles, and those games do show what we need to work on, and that's one thing we didn't just push away. We kind of just accepted with open arms, and meet with Coach Knowles every day, and me as an individual defensive whole, just to come back even stronger, and just correct those little things, because it all comes down to those small little details, and that's one thing we've been working on and honing in.
I don't want to look past any games, but it's always interesting to look through schedules and see games that are going to get a national spotlight. In week 4, the game at Notre Dame, as you guys are well aware, is going to be a huge game. It's long before any of you were born, since Ohio State has gone to South Bend and played a game there. What do you think when you look at that game and that opportunity to play in a historic stadium against a big-time opponent who obviously you're familiar with?
It's going to be a great game. I know the atmosphere is going to be high. I haven't played there, but I just know that the energy is going to be live. Playing a great group, playing a great team with the Notre Dame, and especially a great matchup we had last year. It's just going to be, I feel like, another one of those games.
What excites you about that game, Cade?
Everybody's going to show up to that game. That place is going to be rocking. We're going to come in there with high hopes. They're going to be in there with high hopes. We're just really excited to go in there and play a good ball club.
There's been a lot of talk about NIL in college sports, and I want to ask you guys about a couple opportunities. I want to start with you, JT. You had a really interesting NIL opportunity. You hosted a free camp in Columbus this offseason. What did it mean to you to be able to give back to the community in that way, and to have that as part of your NIL partnership?
Yeah, give back means everything, especially one of the first camps I went to was the Russell Wilson camp, and for him to host a free camp as well, and now today it probably costs a good amount of money to even be able to participate, but just be able to give back and host a little small camp. It was a crazy experience just to have people have my name on their jerseys with next to football camp. So just see the kids smiling, having fun, and as well as looking up to me, and just knowing that they're the role models here in present and taking time out of their day to give back, and it meant a lot.
Hey, Cade, I think back to last year for you, and I don't want to dredge up bad memories, but you got hurt in that college football playoff semifinal, and it felt like at that moment where you left the field, things went downhill for your team, and you'd had such a good game prior to that. When you think back to that moment, what do you think about?
You try not to remember the bad of it, but it's normally what comes to you. Just not being able to be out there with everybody, all those people and your best friends that you've blood and sweat with have just been so crucial to me getting to where I am. It hurt. Hurt leaving everybody, but I feel like everything happens for a reason, and it brought us back together again. So I'm just really happy that I get one more chance to do it with these guys again.
How does it motivate you?
Every day. You never know when your last snap's going to be. So I'm trying not to take anything for granted, any days for granted. Give everything you possibly can, because like I said, you really have no clue when your last one's going to be.
You got a neat story. You grew up on a farm. How has that shaped the person you are? Now, why are you laughing about that?
Yeah, Marv, what are you laughing about? No, that's everything that I know, everything the way I work, the way I act, that I attest to that. The way my parents raised me, my mom, my dad, my sisters, that's everything. I go home every single weekend still to this day in the off season just to go home, be around the farm, and most importantly, be around my family at home. That's what resets me. That's what and reminds you what you're doing this really for.
Yeah. Talking about backgrounds, your background is a fascinating one. We already talked about your dad, Hall of Fame receiver. Did you learn more from watching him or talking to him?
Probably talking to him. I was kind of a little young when he was playing, and then you can only watch so much on YouTube. So just talking to him and seeing how he approached the game, I think definitely made a difference in my career so far.
Do you sit though and watch him? I mean, do you pull up his highlights?
No, I haven't done that in a while. I've been watching myself more.
He pulls up your highlights.
No, we watch each other.
Yeah. Marvin, you had one of the best seasons for an OSU receiver ever last year. So I guess it's almost weird to ask you this, but how do you improve on it? What do you do differently coming into a year like this to take a step?
Yeah, I think one area of my game I'm trying to focus on is yards after catch. If I can turn a 5-yard gain into a 60-yard touchdown, I think that'll help the team go a long way. But then I think anybody can have 1 or 2 good years, but if you can have 2 good years, be consistent over time, that makes you a great player.
I want to be clear, not everybody can have years like you had last year. In fact, very few people can have years like you did. But JT, there's been a lot of talk around Ohio State football that it's been a few years since Ohio State had a truly dominant pass rusher. To what extent does that motivate you to become that person?
Motivates me highly. This offseason I've gotten the chance to speak to Chase Young and just kind of pick his brain and his mindset going into his final season or the season where he broke out at, had a breakout season in, and just tap in and just talk with Coach Jay as well. It just motivates me because knowing what those guys did and me wanting to be like them, it all starts with preparation. And this offseason I've been trying to be as very detailed as I can and within my craft and my work and being disciplined in the film room, whether it's by myself or Coach Jay. So to apply that and then take step by step now, fall camp's coming up. So kind of excited to just put everything I learned and use it against live people to say.
What did Chase tell you without giving away any trade secrets here?
He was very just big on his mindset. Just, you go into every game just wanting to be, unblockable, unstoppable, everything that you talked about coming into Ohio State, all the dreams you had ahead of you, why not just do the right thing and hone in and just see where it takes you, see where God takes you. And that's where I've been doing. It's just controlling the things I control, let God just plan out my steps while I just continue to walk his path.
Last question. I'm interested in getting a thought from each one of you on this. How do you describe success? How do you define success for Ohio State this year? What would a successful year be, Marvin?
It starts with beating the team at North. We haven't beat them in the past 2 years. When you come to Ohio State, that's the first goal that we have, as a program. So it starts there, beating the team at North, and then getting to the Big Ten championship, winning that, and then going on with the national championship. I think when you come to Ohio State, it's kind of natty or bust. You can't really have a down year. You can't really lose any games at that. So an undefeated season, that's a successful season.
Cade?
Like you said, winning every game, first of all, and then winning that game at the end of the season on the 25th. That means the world to us, and that's why we came here, to win that game. They got the best of us last couple of years, so we wear that honestly. So
yeah,
JT, we're ready to come back.
So I guess just have to summarize what they said, but as well as just adding on, just being the dominant team every game, then being the team up north, Big Ten championship, and winning a national championship, and I think that's our goal, and those have always been our goals.
Guys, really a pleasure to talk to all three of you. JT, Cade, Marvin, have great years.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Congratulations on all your success, and look forward to watching the Buckeyes this year.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
David Braun joins us now. And David, this is the most unusual circumstance I can recall in our 17 years of doing this. As I mentioned, you joined a program in January to be the new defensive coordinator. You have never coached at the FBS level. You've never been a head coach. And here you are, thrust into a position now following up the best living player in the history of a program and the winningest head coach in the history of the program. And it's the same person in Pat Fitzgerald. What has this been like for you here these last few weeks?
It's been a whirlwind, and it's been emotional for a lot of reasons. The thing that myself, those in the building, my wife continue to root back into is, there's 110 players back in Evanston that need our leadership, they need our direction, they need our support, they need our love, and that's what every time I get a chance to be around our players, I remind them that being around them brings me great joy and a great deal of inspiration right now.
Aside from that, what has been your message to them about moving forward?
Beyond I'm here to support and serve you, it's been, well, Coach, how are we moving forward? Communications with the staff. The commitment that I've made to our team is I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that their routine is relatively consistent to what they anticipated. As they embarked in July on attacking this season, there were certain expectations and things that they could foresee in terms of what this was going to look like. That being said, if we are going to keep something similar to that structure, there better be a reason why. I want to understand why we're doing it that way. And then if we're going to make some changes, well, I better have great reason for why we're making those changes. And it'll be a great challenge for me and something that I'll have to do an incredible job of, but make sure that I'm doing a thorough job of communicating all of that with our staff, with our players, and having sound reasoning for all the decisions that we're making.
I think one of the really interesting components of this for me, David, is the notion that a lot of this happened because of what was going on in the locker room, because of the comportment between the players. And so given that fact, how do you try to rebuild the culture within the locker room to get these guys in a spot where obviously none of that stuff is going on, but also where they can move past it to value each other as teammates and to kind of rally around a common cause?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. I can only speak to my experience since January 16th of this year when I arrived. And what I can tell you is we're going to do everything in our power to ensure that the student-athlete experience is exactly what it should be. And that experience certainly doesn't involve hazing. We need to make sure we're taking measured steps to ensure that that isn't going on in our locker room. That being said, everything that I've experienced since I've been at Northwestern, whether it be with our staff, whether it be with our players, these one-on-ones that I've had with our guys over the course of the last week, there's a lot of things within our team, within the men and the character that our guys possess that should be celebrated. The way that they've come around each other, they've supported one another, they've pushed through incredible adversity. I've said it multiple times. I'll continue to repeat myself. I'm learning from these young men. I'm inspired, and I'm pulling off of experiences that I can only relate to since I've been there. But there is so much that this university, this athletic department, that this football program should be proud of in terms of the way that those young men are conducting themselves right now.
Coach, the conversation you and Dave just had is more important than anything other than you do have to move on and organize a football team to play games. That's also part of your obligation. You came as the defensive coordinator. Interested if you're going to try to replace yourself so that you can move to the head coaching position without day-to-day work on the defense. Defensive guys that become head coaches, they're not used to controlling the tempo of the game. The offensive coordinator does that. So what's your thoughts on the staff as you move forward?
This has been my most difficult decision. And something that I've lost a lot of sleep over. If we were sitting here today in January, we're hiring a defensive coordinator, and I'm going to fully invest in being the best head coach that I can be. Our current circumstance in keeping our players, best interest in mind in terms of keeping consistency of everything that we did this past spring, installing a new system, and understanding what will put us in a position to play fast in September and trust what all that work that they've put in. I'll be calling the defense. I'll be heavily involved in the defense. But what that's going to require is, number one, a very thorough evaluation of what my rhythm and routine looks like and how that meshes with the defensive staff, not only in fall camp but during the season, and bringing in someone that can help me truly be the best head coach that I can be, someone that has experience in that role, someone that can help guide me, help give me foresight, share wisdom. I better be checking my ego at the door. If I'm sitting here in front of the three of you and saying that I got this head coaching thing figured out, I'm crazy. I need all the wisdom and guidance that someone's willing to share. It'll be a collaborative environment within our office and within that defensive staff. But due to the current situation, context, and timing, I really feel like that's in the best interest of our players.
I understand.
Could it be an individual, as far as someone for you to lean on football-wise, that may be a retired head coach, that may have experience, so you're still allowed to be the best coach you can be, but also can kind of guide you in some of the areas that go on as far as being a head coach at Northwestern?
Yeah, no, it's going to have to be someone like that. It's going to have to be someone that's willing to partner with me to really take on this endeavor together. And something that I've described to people right now, it's going to take the right demeanor and you're running to the fire right now. In terms of what our team is navigating through right now. It's going to take a special individual that wants to get in the fire. Mm-hmm. And go to work and love on these guys and support this staff and go understand that from our players' perspective, from my perspective, the standards and expectations that this team set out for itself this offseason, those things haven't changed. Now, how we're going to have to navigate that certainly has.
Coach, who are your mentors and what have you learned from them?
Tom Sawyer at Winona State taught me what it looked like to care about the person more than the player. Matt Entz was our defensive coordinator at Winona State. Had a chance to work for Matt for the last 4 years at North Dakota State. Matt taught me what it looked like to be an incredibly thorough, detailed, passionate football coach and an awesome husband, father, as well as truly prioritizing in an environment of college football right now that becomes more and more, talent acquisition, transactional. Matt Entz understands what it looks like to prioritize a program that really centers around the student-athlete experience and what that looks like. I'm honored to have worked for him for the last 4 years.
Are you comfortable with where your roster is today and where you think it'll be in a week from now when you go to camp? Or is that something you just have to kind of deal with on a daily basis?
I'm really comfortable where it's at right now. And we got to make sure, myself and the rest of us around the program do a great job of making sure that we keep it that way. Right now I can't sit here and say we're going to win this many games because of these three individuals. But I can point to every single guy in that locker room and know that we're going to find a way to play complementary football. We're going to find a way to play all three phases. And I think each week you're going to see new people step up in new roles. Mm-hmm. But we got to identify, and we had this conversation as a staff yesterday. How does this football team, this group of men, win this year? And we have to throw out what's been done in the past. I'm not saying it's what's been done in the past clearly has worked under Fitz, at times at an extremely high level. But we need to identify what does this team do well. What can this team do against this competition and this schedule to find ways to win this year?
David Braun, interim head coach at Northwestern. Really a pleasure to have you up here. Thanks a lot for your time. I know it's been a crazy few weeks for you, but certainly appreciate you. Thanks a lot, Coach.
Dave. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Last night at one of the landmarks of this great city of Indianapolis, St. Elmo Steakhouse, I have to say, I did not know that the steakhouse owner, Craig Hughes, is a Penn State alum, but there you see James Franklin tweeting out the experience the Nittany Lions.
I knew that. You should pay more attention.
I know you knew that.
Of course.
Yeah.
Who doesn't know that?
Right.
Our guy Craig Hughes took care of us, Penn Stater.
Absolutely.
It was unbelievable. Had a ribeye.
Yeah. Well, let's go through some other restaurant owners and this school
guys,
thing right
wait.
We should say we're Penn State
Rob
guys.
wants us to keep going.
We should go.
Yeah.
That's what
Could
we
you
gotta
do that? Could you work that for us?
No, we
Everybody knows. Not getting away with that.
James, how did everyone do with the shrimp cocktail?
So I tried to coach him up.
Yeah.
Olu wasn't interested.
He
Olu
told
wasn't
me
interested.
earlier. Yeah.
Now Adisa is trying to be well mannered, mouth shut, chewing the vapors. It's like Vicks, straight out the nose, and all of a sudden he starts to tear up, and it got him, and he was done after that. He wasn't having any more, but it was awesome. We had a great time. Craig was awesome to us. Mike Robinson came up and said hello. Adam Brenneman, a bunch of Penn Staters that were there came up and visited us. Was really good. Todd Blackledge came up as well. So we had a great night.
It sounds good. You had a great year last year, too. Last time I saw you, in fact, we were outside the Rose Bowl. It was miserable outside, but I know you were feeling really good inside after a great win. How do you process that season last year? Again, winning the Rose Bowl, finishing in the top 10, all of the positives that surrounded it. How do you process that, and how do you move forward with it?
Yeah, so I think first of all, you got to talk about the opponent. I got a ton of respect for Utah and their head football coach. I think that's a really good football program. They beat a really good USC team twice, which, Coach, that's hard to beat anybody twice in the same season. So I thought we finished the season with a really good win against a really good opponent, essentially on the road in the Rose Bowl. So that gave us a lot of momentum coming into the offseason, a bunch of young talent on that team. So I thought overall, we had a good season. We finished, number 7 in the country, so I think we're in a healthy position. But obviously at a place like Penn State, the expectations are high. We embrace those expectations. And our side of the conference, when you're talking about the people that we have to compete with. So we're in a good place, but we need to take the next step. I think we're in a position to do that, have some question marks that we need to figure out between now and West Virginia.
We sat here last year and we asked you about the run game, and we asked you about the offensive line, and you said you weren't making any promises on the O-line, that you were done making promises. You felt like the run game was going to be better. I'd say it was dramatically better with Drew Singleton and Katron Allen. You got Trey Potts in there now as well in that room. A year later, what can you tell us about how you feel about that part of your offense?
Yeah, I think similar. Obviously, when you get a guy like Olu Fashanu decides that he wants to come back and graduate from Penn State, I think that sends a message. And then on top of that, our depth is just in a very different position. We have, I think, a 2.5 deep at that position that we can win with in the Big Ten with some real talented individuals leading the way. It also helps, I think we're going against a really good defensive line at practice every single day. Iron sharpens iron. And then we have 2 running backs that are proven commodities. Nick can go 80 yards at any point. Katron, I think, is a natural running back, a productive running back, can make people miss, got great vision, balance, contact balance, and size. And then we were able to go out and get a proven commodity in the Big Ten to come back home to where his mother went to school in Mr. Potts.
Coach, we've been doing this since 2007, and a lot of good things have been said about Penn State in that time. But no one's ever said Penn State has the best offensive line in the conference going into the season. So preseason predictions. And there's other places around the conference that you would think in the Midwest you could build an offensive line. It's taken you a while. Is it harder now than ever before to build the kind of offensive line you've built?
Well, yeah, I think so. I think obviously we're in a much different position now. When I got there and we only had 5, right. It was a very different. We had 5 total in the whole program.
And you need 5.
Correct.
Correct.
Had all
a little analysis.
Yeah. I think where it's hard, Coach, is tackles. They're just hard to find those guys that have the length and the athleticism to be on the edge. Some programs are going to take the philosophy they're going to recruit 5 tackles You know, you can play with tackles at guard a lot of times and sometimes at center as well. It's hard to get those guards outside. So I think we've done a really good job of recruiting length, and it's not always height. There's some of these guys that are 6'3" with really long arms and athletic feet that are able to do it as well. But I think Coach Troutwine has done a really good job in the footprint. We don't have enough to support it just in the state of Pennsylvania, but in the footprint. And then we've gone out. You know, we got a young man by the name of Vengione from Washington that we signed late, who's going to factor in for us and is 350 pounds and can move. You guys will be impressed when you see him.
Oh. What's been different? Because I think Penn State has always recruited under you at a very high level. But it seems that those elite players that are coming now are contributing right away. Is it just the mentality? What is it that's been the difference?
Well, I think we're being able to more consistently do it in stack classes, where in the past we may have a really good class and then 2 years later have a really good class. We're able to do it, I think, on a more consistent basis right now. When that happens, you just got a chance. Last year we were fortunate. We had a ton of freshmen that came in, and by game 5 they were heavy contributors and making a big impact. I'm hoping we're able to do that again this year, and now you got 2 really good freshman classes that are impacting our roster. So I'm not sure. A combination of making sure we're doing a great job in the state of Pennsylvania, keeping our guys home, and then complimenting them. And then we've gone to some kind of unusual places, like I mentioned, Washington and Alabama and places like that Penn State just felt like the right fit for their families.
What are some of your points of emphasis going into camp?
So, I think, like always, Coach, toughness, up front on both sides of the ball, but really at every position. Can we run in situations when everybody in the stadium knows you need to run to win? And then the same thing in defending those situations on the defensive side of the ball. I think the battles that we'll have on our O&D line will prepare us for that, and the depth and the talent that we have there. A question mark. Last year was at linebacker. That's not a question mark anymore. But we did lose in the secondary Joey Porter and Tig, who were really productive players for us. But at those positions like that, you play so many guys, we have a lot of confidence. The production, we'll see. Wide receivers, the big question for us on offense. We feel like we got 2 guys that are coming back that are established, and then there's a battle for really the number 3 receiver position, but really all those backups. I feel like there's a lot of guys that are ready to step up, but they need to do it.
Coach, you have a culinary superstar in your home, your daughter. So I want to know what's your go-to favorite baking dish she has for you.
So you're talking about Shola Franklin, my 16-year-old daughter who just started driving. So I would prefer her baking than driving, to be honest with you.
Who, by the way, last year when we asked her about going to college, she said, "I've been in college all my life."
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that is fair. Now our plan is to go to New York City and go to culinary school. But I just love whatever she does. She's really creative. She does a really good job with it. It's something she's passionate about. I think for all of us as parents and coaches, you want your children, your players, to find something that they love and are passionate about. And she's found it. So we want to support it in every way we can. Hopefully you guys will get another taste this year, because early on it was like it looked pretty. And then she got it like tasting really good. Now it does both. It tastes good and it's really pretty.
You're saying this,
yeah.
Not us.
I'm saying she is legit now in every area. It's visually impressive and it tastes unbelievable. But not only that, she's cooking all types of things now.
Cool.
Don't be afraid to bring someone.
That's what I'm saying.
That would have been polite. So I did not have us asking about your daughter's culinary skills before asking about Drew Aller.
I know what's important.
Yeah, right.
I know what's important.
Priorities.
Yes, exactly.
I know it's more
It's
interesting.
the cookies that she makes for Drew Aller.
See?
Well, see, I like how you tied it all together.
One's a lifetime skill. The other guy's not going to play football forever.
Yeah, maybe she can teach him how to cook too.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I'll have
here's the
something
thing.
to do when he's
Before
done
you
that.
ask that question,
Still can't get to
She
the
has
still can't ask about
Your daughters
Drew Aller.
have such a great relationship. One of the fun things, if we go around the campus, they have such a great relationship with your players, and they have so much respect for them. So when you talk about making those cookies or whatever she decides she wants to make for the players, they all embrace it because they just love being around it.
Now, what do you want to know?
Now, what do you want to know? Go ahead.
Coach, how did the experience that Drew Aller
Is this the
picked up?
Food Network? What do we got going on here?
How did the experience of that you were able to get Drew Aller last year, how does that factor into now when he becomes the guy this year? How does that help? Because I know you really finessed that. You had a record-setting quarterback in Sean Clifford, and yet you figured out a way.
Yeah, so maybe I'm still a little bit old school. You know, I was with the Green Bay Packers, coached the receivers there when we had a quarterback named Brett Favre. We drafted Aaron. I was with Aaron for his rookie year with the Green Bay Packers. I just thought there was a ton of value. I still believe this in the NFL or college, although it's become kind of common now for them to play, rookies in the NFL, for him to sit behind Bret and learn from what Bret did well, learn from things that he would do differently. And Sean was great like that. Sean's football IQ, he's great in the meeting room, he's been phenomenal, and we were able to play Drew in 10 games. So you kind of got the best of both worlds, and as you guys saw, like we opened the season, on the road, primetime game, blackout at Purdue, and Drew got in that game and showed tremendous poise and skill. So there's a lot there to work with, and we need to continue to build on. He's going to have a great preseason. He is competing with Bo Perbula, so we'll see how that goes.
Head coach of the Nittany Lions, James Franklin, great to see you. Coach, we'll look forward to tasting some of those cookies.
No.
When we're in State College.
They're getting desserts. You weren't supportive of this conversation, so no dessert for you.
Thank you, Coach.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Man, that hurts. I'm sure they'll share there because they're very kind. Wow, that hurts. And fellas, Coach Bielema mentioned he drove the three of you over. So I want to know about the experience of in the car with Coach Bielema. Tell me about his driving.
You don't want to know about his driving. A little shaky. Smooth drive, just talking to each other, getting to know each other better. That was the whole drive.
Yeah, he was saying that he literally interviews you guys while you're on the way over.
Yeah, he does. I was trying to take a nap on the way over there. He's like, hey, Keith.
Would this guy stop asking me questions?
Every time I'd answer a question, I'd lay my head on the window. Then there's another one. I'm like, oh, okay, here I go again. Over and over again.
You guys were really good last year. I mean, this was an exciting season to watch. I mentioned it's the first time in more than a decade Illinois had a winning record. You went back to a bowl game for the first time in a while. What was the best part of it, Isaiah? What did you enjoy the most?
The part that I enjoyed the most was growing every week with my brothers, going to battle with my brothers and seeing the guys drafted last year, seeing Devin Witherspoon, Sidney Brown, Quan Martin, Chase Brown, seeing all them guys get to chase their dreams at the next level. That was the best part of it.
How about for you, Keith?
Same thing. Those guys went through the exact same things that we're going through at this moment, actually. And just to see those guys go ahead and get drafted high is just something that we're striving for.
Keith, how do you feel like Bret Bielema has turned this program around as quickly as he has?
He's done a great job. When he first came in the team meeting, he talked to us. And I was like, okay, this guy's for real, and just he's the same guy every day. He's never a different person, and he's honest, That's what I respect about Coach B. So I'm just so excited to play for him for another year.
Johnny, how about you? What's your sense of why this thing has gotten headed in the right direction so quickly?
Rubbing on what Keith said, Coach B is an honest person. He knows what he's talking about. Everybody knows his history at Wisconsin, won a Big Ten championship there. His knowledge on football is just next level, and him installing that into us is what's taking us to that next level as a football team.
You guys, by some measures, had the best defense in the country last year. I think by the most important measure, right, which is how many points you give up. I mean, to me, all those other statistics are pretty meaningless. You lose your defensive coordinator in Ryan Walters to Purdue. Aaron Henry takes over, someone who's been in this program. For people who don't know a whole lot about him, give us a sense for him and what kind of unique spins maybe he brings to the defense.
Coach Henry's a godly man, first off. He believes in all of us, treats all of us the same way, keeps it real with all of us, tells all of us the truth, He got his own spin to the defense we had last year, but I feel like he was the right person, I feel like everything's meant to be, and I feel like he was meant to be our defensive coordinator.
Keith?
Same thing, honestly. Coach Henry, great guy, great coach, coaches details. I'm so excited to play for him. He knows his ball. He knows his football.
Isaiah, I want to talk to you about the offense, and you've got a new quarterback. It's not totally clear who it'll be. Maybe Luke Altmaier, maybe John Paddock, maybe someone else who's already been in the program. But as a wide receiver, what can you tell us about the quarterback spot and how you think it's going to pick up from where it was last year, which was pretty good?
Yeah, I would say that quarterback room is great competition right now. You got 3 guys that come to mind that has been in competition, Donovan Leary, and then the 2 that you named. All 3 of them have made progress day by day. Every single day they get better. Actually, yesterday we had the chance to throw together as a team, and the more we throw, the less balls that's on the ground, honestly. But I'll say that them 3 guys, it's also a brotherhood, and that's hard to have in a quarterback room because it can only be one guy. So usually it's like a fight. Okay, I'm going to be the starter. But truthfully, them guys push each other every day, and they also root for each other. Like, they biggest supporters. And I could truly say whoever is the guy, the other 2 will be just as ready just in case something happened.
You were second in the Big Ten in catches last year. How are you looking to expand your game this year?
One thing, this summer I just worked on my weaknesses, and then my strengths, I made them even stronger. So one thing I went to go train with this guy named David Robinson, also this guy named Terry Fenton, and literally just worked with them on things that they felt like I needed to work on just to have an even better season this year.
What were the weaknesses?
One of my weaknesses I feel like that I need to work on was the tracking the ball, deep passes and stuff, so I worked on that a lot. Me and Luke, getting Donovan Leary, John Paddock, having them to come out there and throw to me some deep passes, working on that. And then also just on the outside, working on releases so I can have more versatility, being able to play inside and outside wherever coach need me.
Keith and Johnny, you guys both had outstanding seasons a year ago. You both could have gone pro. I'm interested from each one of you. Keith, I can start with you, and then Johnny, you follow. What made you decide to come back?
It was easy. I was asked a question going through the process. The question was, Keith, have you done everything you wanted to do in college football? And I looked in the mirror and said, no. There's a lot of things that I left out there on the table and a lot of things that I'm back to get. And also just out here, but like, I just want to play with my guys again. You know, Johnny, Isaiah. I've known Isaiah since I was in the 6th grade. And I came in with Isaiah, actually, and we came in and we've been grinding ever since. It wasn't always, butterflies and rainbows. There was tough times. Just to be where I'm at is just truly a blessing from God. So if I can make that decision over again, I'd make it 1,000 times. I'm just so excited to be here for another year.
How about you, Johnny?
Rubbing off what Keith said, I feel like there was still more that I could do. Some more meat on the bone, During the draft process, I talked to my coaches, my family, some agents about what I did good, what I didn't do good, and just looked at those things that I could improve on. I knew coming back another year, I could improve on those in the off season, and that's mainly one of the reasons why I came back to raise my draft stock. I feel like I could have did more. I know I left a couple plays on the field last year, so just coming back to prove myself again.
You have gone on record as saying you want to be the #1 overall pick in the draft.
Facts.
Yeah. Another fact is that you were not ranked among the top 1,000 players in your class coming out of high school.
For sure.
So why do you think you were so underestimated?
I never went to camps as a high schooler. Camps how you get rated as a high schooler. I just felt like my game spoke for itself. I feel like if I did good on the field, what do I need to go to this camp for? And honestly, we can see now that
maybe you should have gone to the camps.
Yeah,
worked out.
It's all right though. It worked out in my favor,
Right.
But I'm just blessed to be in a position that I'm in right now.
You guys tied for second in the Big Ten in tackles for losses. Do you compete with one another at all for those TFLs, Keith?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Johnny says to me, he says, beat me there, don't meet me there, before the snap, So it's friendly competition for sure. Friendly competition for sure.
If you meet me there, you ain't gonna get it. That's for
sure. Keith, you were a really good basketball player in high school. In fact, it took a while for you to start playing football, not until your junior year of high school. So how have you come so far so fast?
God's just blessed me so much, man. It's incredible. Like you said, I didn't pick up a helmet until I was a junior in high school. And I never thought that I could take it as far as I'm taking it now. And it all just goes back to God and the people that I've surrounded myself around. These guys up here, great guys to surround myself around, and my parents as well. my mom, Kimberly, my dad, Keith Sr., both my brothers, they've just been pushing me to not just be a better athlete, but a better person as well.
You said you've known Isaiah for a long time. Isaiah, you were the football star growing up, right? I mean, a highly touted quarterback prospect. You came to Illinois as a quarterback. You got some chances to play, and you ended up moving to wide receiver. And, of course, you have shined there as a wide receiver. I think a lot of quarterbacks, and you mentioned it earlier, that quarterback room, there's only one ball. And a lot of guys would have said, you know what, I'm a quarterback, and I'm going to go, especially in this day and age where you can transfer somewhere else and play. What made you stick it out?
It was a couple things. First, like I said, my brotherhood, the guys that I done built a bond with over these last few years, that bond means something special to me, and I mean that. And then secondly, I believed in Coach B's vision. And when Coach B brought me in that room, it was really like, give it a try. It wasn't like, okay, I'm moving you to quarterback. It was give it a try. And once I tried it for a practice or two, it felt like home. It felt natural. It was just, okay, I'm good. I want to stay here. I don't want to go back to quarterback. And I think that's what made it so easy for me. He gave me an option, like, okay, you could try this. But if you don't like it, then you could come back to quarterback. And, from there, the story goes on.
Yeah, I'd say it's worked out fairly well for you. All right, guys, ton of fun visiting with all three of you. Best of luck this year. Johnny, Keith, Isaiah, have a great year.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
The Illini coach joining us right now. And, Coach, let's look back before we look ahead. You really made a great jump in year two. I was asking the players what their favorite memory of it was. What was your favorite memory? What was the best part of last year for you?
When I took over, I made a huge emphasis. I looked at the 5 years prior to my arrival about who had won the Big Ten West. And it really was Wisconsin and Northwestern, right? And when I walked in the building that day, they had lost 6 in a row to Northwestern. They hadn't beat Wisconsin, and they had the one game there in town. But we had a 3-game stretch. When we reported in January after my first year, I said, hey, we got a 3-game stretch here where we're going to go to Wisconsin, and then we're going to go have back-to-back games in Minnesota and Iowa. And that's going to define what we are. And we won all 3 of those, right? And I think about that because, we went on to a bye week, came back, we were 7-1, and everybody's feeling good. As much as it was hard to get our team to understand how to win, now we have to learn how to sustain it because we went 1-4 in our next 5 games. That's what keeps me up at night, right? That's what my mind goes on a daily is to finish the season 1-4. Just to win a championship, you'll never do it that way.
As you look to improve on that finish from last year, you're always trying to build and find new ways to succeed and get some new thoughts within your program. You made a pretty big move yesterday in hiring Jim Leonhard as an analyst. Give us a sense of what his exact role is going to be.
It's a little bit of to be determined. I talked to Jimmy literally when he took the job, or when he took over for Paul. I just reached out to him. We've known each other since I was fortunate enough to coach him for 1 year as a coordinator when I was at Wisconsin. I've had a relationship over the years, mutual respect, and then he and I started talking. I just said, hey, what are you looking for? What are you looking to do? Because he didn't know NFL, college, what. And I said, here's what I throw at you. So I kind of proposed, why don't you come and be an analyst? You're not going to be on the field coaching. It's against the rules. You're not going to be on the road recruiting, against the rules. But come in and be a true analyst and see how we do things, right? I've had 6 guys that I've worked with that have become head coaches, right? And one of the things I really wanted to do for Jimmy is he's put himself in a position to be a head coach, but I don't know how much he had been prepared for that moment, right? And I said, come in and learn from us, and then let us learn from you, right? I'm excited because his defensive mind, his mindset is unbelievable, but he'll be an analyst that touches literally all 3 phases, offense, defense, and special teams. But he won't be with us on any game days.
Coach, you have 3 offensive linemen return, and this offensive line was in the semifinals for the Joe Moore Award last year. And you've been around some good offensive line, if I remember right. How good can this offensive line be?
I'm excited, Coach. I really Julian Pearl, our left tackle, he's 320 pounds. I was watching him run yesterday, and I'm like, good Lord, he looks good, right? And I know he's going to get better as a player. Isaiah Adams is continued to just truly blow me away at his ability and skill set. Zy Chrysler. But I'm really excited. The key is going to be how Josh Kreutz. Josh has had a really good summer. He looks incredibly good. And when he talks, everybody listens, no matter what their age is. So I'm really excited to see where that group goes.
Really talented defensive line that has an opportunity to get that offensive line better each and every year. How about, just the impact that they could have defensively for you?
It's a good point, Howard. I really believe iron sharpens iron, right? And I know when I had him rolling at Wisconsin, our defensive linemen used to say, game day was a relief because, they would play against our O-line every day in practice, and they would get to play against a team that wasn't as good, they didn't think, right? And Now the flip side for our offensive line, Johnny and Keith, and our outside linebacker room is as talented as I've ever had. So hopefully the combination of those two, I really believe in building a program from the bottom up, and the O-line, D-line play is a big part of it, and I think we should be exceptional on both sides.
Coach, each year we do a recruiting show, and most years, if not all years, the number of Big Ten signees is Ohio 1, Illinois 2. You made a priority when you took the job to do in-state recruiting. Are you satisfied with where you are?
I am. I'm excited. We've signed, before I got there, they had signed 3 players in the last 2 years from the state of Illinois. In a 2-year window, I think we've signed 28,
Right.
you know, and then we're not just signing guys to sign guys. We're signing guys that are good players, and we're getting in on players that we're competing against the best in the country. We have a running back, Caden Fagan, who literally had offers from everybody in the Big Ten, Notre Dame, everybody. We got him on campus in January. We got a wide receiver, Malik Elsie, who I think is a very talented player. We beat almost everybody out on him, right? So it's a big part of emphasis. And then I would take it a step further, Coach. I took a look at the last 5 years draft in the Big Ten West, and I really didn't care, you know, anything about where they were drafted. If you're drafted in the 7th round, you're still a pretty good player, right?
I would guess.
So
Yeah, sure.
1st round, 7th round, I didn't care. And in the Big Ten West, the state that was represented with the most draft picks was the state of Illinois. And they were all over the conference, right? Now I want to get those guys to play for the blue and orange. I don't want them in other colors, right? So there's talent here, and we got to be able to captivate it.
What are some of the ingredients or things that you see for a first time, a guy going from a position coach, and I'm talking about Aaron Henry now, to the seat as the defensive coordinator? What do you need to see out of them to be able to make that jump?
You know, when I worked for Coach Fry, he retired, and he gave me a note that I carry in my binder today. And he said, you're going to be a great head coach. Make sure you're prepared for when that moment comes. And I hired Aaron Henry 3 years ago. I don't think I necessarily hired him with the idea that he was going to be my next D coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
But after being around him a year, I realized that he was going to be that. I kept it myself, right? Because actually when Ryan took the job, that's who he wanted to hire, right? And I said, okie doke, not, right? And the part that's very, very pure with Aaron, he has an extremely high football IQ. Even as a player, he played at a high level. He thinks because he's athletic and he could run, he was extremely intelligent, right? And
Yeah.
he sees the game very well. A lot of times, I would say in coaches, like Dave Dorn, when I was first around Dave, I noticed Dave could see the game very, very well, right? And some guys just can't. Like some guys can't see the whole game. Others can, and Aaron has that gift.
What's your assessment of the quarterback play heading into fall camp?
I'm really excited. You know, Luke Altmaier, obviously, people are talking about, came in from Ole Miss. You know, a guy that's always been, his dad is a team doctor at Mississippi State, so literally his whole life he's been around football, right? He's a junkie, and coming in, I think it was a big change from how Ole Miss did things to how we do things. So there was this, I'm really glad he was here in the spring, right? Because he began to see how we do it, and our coaches have said he's had a really good summer. We have Donovan Leary. We have a John Paddock, who's a transfer in from Ball State. We have a quarterback room that's probably as deep as I've ever had it since I've been here, and excited for that. And Art Sitkowski, who came off the bench and won 3 huge games for me in his coaching career, or in his playing career, is now one of their coaches, and he has been phenomenal with our young quarterbacks. Barry Lunny and him, that combo is really good.
You were talking about the teams that had won the Big Ten West, and when you got to Illinois, kind of eyeing those teams. As you know, this is the last year of the East-West format in the Big Ten. We looked at the schedule. You don't have Ohio State. You don't have Michigan on the schedule. What would it mean in this last year of the East-West for Illinois to get here and play in the Big Ten championship game for the first time ever?
It'd mean a lot, Dave, and I'll take it a step further. So I was the guy at Wisconsin that won the last ever championship before there was a Big Ten championship game. I won it the last year in its existence. Had to beat Ohio State, #1 in the country. Then we went on the road and beat Iowa, who was in the top 5. And then we went on to win 4 more games, and we won our first Big Ten title, and that was without a championship game. Then the next year, we start the championship game, and I was the first to win that one, right? It was a rematch game against Michigan State, and then I won the next year in a rematch game against Nebraska. So it's kind of cool that I was able to be the last one to win non-divisional play, the first one to win a championship game, and now maybe the writing's on the wall, right? Like, we'll see where it goes. The last time I was the first kickoff speaker at a Big Ten, we also had a very good season. So when I saw that assignment, I jumped on it. I am a bit superstitious.
You are the king of the positive omens, huh?
Well, they're omens right now. We haven't played a soul, right? We haven't won a game.
All right, hey, always fun to visit with you. Bret Bielema. We won't talk about the critique that your players gave of your driving. Yeah, it was spotty.
My wife would give the same, I promise you.
Just consistency.
Spotty reviews. Bret Bielema, great to see you. We'll see you at camp coming up here in a few weeks. And very pleased to have 3 Spartans with me now. J.D. Duplain, Cal Haladay, Trey Mosely, all joining us. Guys, welcome. Great to have you with me. Let's start with the message from Coach Tucker in this offseason, Trey. We all know how good a season you had 2 years ago. It wasn't where you wanted it to be last year. What has Coach Tuck said about getting back to playing at that elite level this year?
Just being focused, getting back to the basics and getting back to the things that we did going into 2021 so that we can have a successful season.
Can you put a finger, Cal, on what was different last year, why there might have been that drop-off?
I think a big thing is injuries and having guys that should have been starting that have been hurt or something like that along those lines. I think that's a big thing, and not having the guys out there that should have been out there because they were hurt or something along those lines.
Yeah, it was a huge issue, no doubt, defensively in particular, to have all the injuries that you guys had. I mean, 27 different starters on defense, Cal. That is just crazy to me to think about that number. Is there any way that helps you this year? I mean, just the experience that different guys got. Like, can you put some sort of a positive spin on that?
Yeah, I mean, last year was tough for sure because the guys were getting kind of thrown into the fire. But I think this year it'll benefit them greatly because that snaps under their belt that they wouldn't have got necessarily if those guys didn't get hurt. So that means we're going to be more veterans that are going to be on our team, just giving us more depth. And I think that'll just help us make the competition a little bit better, and I think it'll make our defense overall better.
JD, it's interesting to talk about injuries. Coach Tuck was talking about it when he was up here with us, right, 2 years ago, or last year, I guess it was. Technically, you started spring camp with like 5 players on the offensive line that could actually play. And he was saying your numbers are way up this year. That is an area where you guys struggled last year. So what have you seen from the O-line in terms of making a jump this year?
Yeah, having that depth is huge for us, It starts from practice, being able to service ourselves in individual drills and getting good reps, and then having guys that can compete against each other. Iron sharpens iron. So having those guys that can step in if someone guy goes down and there's not that fall off, it's huge for our team.
You had the opportunity to go pro. What made you decide to come back?
Just knowing what we can accomplish this year as a team. I want to be a part of that, and then having Coach Cav as my offensive line coach, knowing that he's going to make me the best player that I can be, and then obviously, like I said, just being a part of this moment, this team, and what we can accomplish this year.
Trey, there's always going to be a focus on the new quarterback, and you guys presumably know Kim, although I understand there's still a competition there as well. But give us a sense for that room and what you've seen from those guys as you've caught balls from them.
Yeah, both of those guys are extremely talented, and competing for the job. I'm extremely excited to see who comes out this fall camp and wins the job because competition, like JD said, iron sharpens iron, and the best man will win.
So describe the skill set of both players, of Kim and Hauser, as they compete for that spot.
Yeah, so with Noah, he's a little more versatile in terms of being able to run. Caden is a bigger body. They both have great arm talent is tremendous, and they're both capable of getting the job done. So either way we go, we're led by a good quarterback.
Run game wasn't great last year, and it's understandable. Like, you lose a player like Kenneth Walker, right? There might be a little bit of a drop-off, but you've got Berger coming back this year, and then I know you've got some new faces as well. Bring us up to date on the backfield and what you see.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see that running back room just get to work this fall camp and this season. We brought in guys like, Mangum, brought in Nate Carter, like you said, Berger coming back. I think we got a really talented running back room, and, we're getting on page with them, building our relationship with them each day, doing things outside of football. And, I'm really excited to see how they perform. I think they got a very special group.
Cal, outside of staying healthy, what does the defense need to do to be better than it was a year ago?
I think we need to take care of the details because I believe that the small things take care of the big things. And, I mean, that's going to be the focus, getting all the details right, making sure you're in the right spot at the right time, making sure we can over-communicate. And we got to be able to trust each other. There's got to be that chemistry on defense because the best defenses they trust each other. They know where everyone's going to be at what they're going to do. So I think that's going to be the big thing.
I love your story. You grew up on a farm in Pennsylvania, right? 1,000 acres. Like, how long does it take to get from one end of that to another?
Well, it's all spread out. So I live in rolling hills, and it's all hilly over in Pennsylvania where I live. But it's It's fun. I think it's a different lifestyle, not for everyone, but I think I wouldn't want to be raised any other way. It's been a blessing.
What was the worst job on the farm?
Oh, waking up at 5 in the morning to go help my dad. That was always brutal because then we go to school and then we'd have practice after. So it was a long day. We'd be up early and then late nights.
All right. So, but like of the things you had to help your dad with, was there something you're like, the last thing I want to do this morning at 5 a.m. is?
Oh, we were loading pigs at 5 a.m. So we were throwing pigs around there like 300 pounds. That's what we had to do at 5 a.m.
Neither one of you looks like you're even the least bit interested.
No experience in that business.
In doing this.
No, sir. I'm good on the pigs.
All right. You are a chemistry major?
Yeah.
As well? So what would you want to do with that after football's over for you?
I'm not really sure exactly. I just wanted to have a good degree to go back on because at the end of the day, the goal is definitely to play professionally. And I just thought coming to a great school to get a good education as well, just so I have a fallback plan.
Trey, tell me a little bit about you. We just had a group of Big Ten student athletes who came back from Selma, Alabama, the big trip. I know you did that last year, right? You did that in the first year. Mm-hmm. I'm fascinated to talk to people who went on that trip because everyone has absolutely raved about it. You're a year removed from it now.
Yep.
When you think about it, like what did you learn? What did you take from it? And how did it change you?
It was a great experience, just learning some of the history of our country and some things that people went through back then. We went there and learned some things and came back as better people. So I just want to say thank you to the Big Ten and for everyone who was a part of that, putting that together, because it definitely was a great experience. And for anyone who has the opportunity moving forward, they should definitely go.
What was the biggest thing that stuck with you from it? Like, is there a moment where when someone says, tell me about going on the Big Life series, is there a moment where you're like, well, this is what flashes into my head?
Yeah, so we saw some great museums, and we went by a great church as well. So just like I said, the history and everything that went into the church, and just seeing everything that the people who came before me, and all the hardship that they endured, it was great to see that, because without them, I wouldn't be where I am today.
I saw you were just nominated the AFCA Good Works team. Tell me about your involvement in the community.
I just try to, be the best person I can on and off the field, and not pass up on any opportunities that present themselves, because, we have a great platform here at Michigan State, and I try to, put my best foot forward in all aspects, because you only have this opportunity once, and once it's done, it's done. So I want to leave a mark.
I want to ask you guys a final question here. Is there one thing that you could point to where at the end of the year, if you do this, it would be a successful season? Like, how do you define success for this team this year? JD, I'll start with you.
I would say our goal as a team is to win every game on our schedule. That's what we're working for. That's why we're putting in so much work this offseason and during fall camp, how we're going to be working. And, we want to be back here. This is the end goal always, and then, wherever we go from here.
So undefeated is a goal, but not undefeated, but playing in the Big Ten championship game would still be good enough?
We want to win every game on our schedule. That's our goal. We want to win every game on our schedule.
Cal?
Yeah, I agree with JD. If we don't win every game on our schedule and we come to the Big Ten championship, it won't have the same ring to it, I guess. But, winning a Big Ten championship would be a really big accomplishment for the team, I think.
Trey, I'll let you get the last word on this.
They both hit it on the head, like you said, coming back to Lucas Oil at the end of the season is every team's goal. It's not going to be easy, but I feel like we do have the pieces to make the run and get the job done. So I'm looking forward to it this season.
All right, fellas, hope to see you back here in December. Best of luck coming up this year. Those are the Michigan State Spartans getting set to embark on another season. Scarlet Knights represented here. Deion Jennings, Johnny Langan, Aaron Lewis getting their caricatures done. Very serious look out of you there, Aaron.
That guy was really talented. He did that in under 2 minutes. And look at that.
It's a good like.
My beard was spot on, Dave. You saw that? Oh, and then I hurt his hand. Oh, my gosh.
Aaron Lewis providing the commentary on the caricature, joining us here along with Johnny Langan and Deion Jennings. And fellas, let's start here. I know you have high aspirations for this year. You started off well last year, and then it didn't quite go where you wanted it to. What will it take to get off to the fast start again this year, but continue that momentum and carry it through the season?
Like Coach Schiano says, just being present and being in the moment. We have to do that every game and every day and every practice, and we'll get what we want when it comes to the back half of the season.
Johnny?
Yeah, I'd like to echo that. It's all about being where your feet are and just focusing on your job and chopping every single play. And if you just worry about just that one thing in your job, it should be good.
Aaron, how many times a day do you hear the word chop?
Oh my gosh, it's a lot. It's a lot that you hear the word chop, but there's a big meaning behind it too. Focus, mental, physical toughness, perseverance. It's a lot behind that just one word. That's the word that we use, that we try to live by. Actually, it's part of our culture. FTC, family, trust, chop. We just want to live chop.
Okay, so define chop for me, because I guess I just look at it as keep chopping down the tree.
Right? So I said, the actual definition is focus, mental, physical toughness, and perseverance. We kind of want to focus on that spot on the tree that you got to chop down, and we want to keep going at it, keep going at it, keep going at it. Be relentless. Don't stop. That's really what chop is.
Yeah, interesting. I want to talk to you guys about your decisions to come back. You both had, you could have been done with your college careers, moved on. You both made the decision to play another year. What prompted that?
I want to win with the guys. I want to win with the players and the coaches. The Rutgers football program, we all really care about each other. We really put a lot of time and effort into, into what we do. So, that was the main reason for me, to come back and, win with everybody.
How about for you, Johnny?
Yeah, I mean, we've been here since the beginning with Coach Schiano, and I really feel like we've really built this, this culture that we have, and I want to take this to the next level and win with the guys.
Aaron and Deion, you guys were two of the leaders of what was a pretty good defense last year. How do you take a step forward? How do you go from being pretty good to being elite, to being one of the best defenses in the league?
Yeah, that's something that we really talked about this offseason, being able to take that next leap. And we had to put our foot down and get serious about it. We put in a different type of work that I haven't really seen from the defense, and not just the defense, the offense as well. But this defense has the aspirations to be amazing and really well. We just have to, everybody has to do their 1/11th. Don't focus on too much. Just focus on that one job that you have, and like you said, chop it.
Yep, and like Aaron said, everybody has really attacked this offseason, and I'm really proud of the guys, the younger guys, the older guys, all, banding together, and, it's going to pay dividends towards the season.
Johnny, I know the offense wasn't quite where you guys wanted it to be last year. You have a new offensive coordinator in Kirk. What has he brought to this offense?
Coach Shiraka is a great coach. He's a very tough guy, and he'll bring out the best out of everyone. And he won't settle until he does. Coach Shiraka, he puts a big emphasis on the ball. Big emphasis on executing our plays and knowing our job, and then finally violence. And not only violence in hitting, but the way we communicate, the way we run around the field. That's very important.
Aaron and Deion, you guys went against this new look offense every day in practice. So what can you tell us? Give us a little insight into where you saw improvement.
I just felt like they really stuck together and they were really one. One thing with being on that field, everybody wants to be one. That offense needs to be one. The defense needs to be one. And they were really it was a really physical group, and I can just see that the leaders really took the people under their wing and got the offense right. And I'm glad that we get to go against this offense now.
Right, like Aaron said, just them attacking every day, and them diving all in. The O linemen, the receivers, Gavin. It's been really. I'm really proud of what they've been doing. So it's really good.
Johnny, you came to Rutgers as a quarterback, so I think, and you played quarterback at Rutgers, so I think you have some insight into that room. Give us a sense for Gavin, for Evan Simon, and where you've seen kind of the jumps there.
Yeah, I just he's really matured over this past year as a leader. He's a vocal leader now. Not just lead by example. He gets in front of the team and he'll tell us the way it is. And there's just not a throw that kid can't make. He's such a bag of tricks, and it's so much talent. And I'm really excited to see it happen this fall.
Deion, you've been through some challenges in your career. You had an injury which really derailed you and kind of got your career a little bit off path. You came back last year and you ended up being the team's MVP at the postseason award ceremony. First of all, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
That's amazing. But
Congrats, Deion.
What did you learn about yourself as you went through that?
Perseverance. You have to be able to persevere through the tough times, and stay true to yourself. And if you do that, then you'll come out victorious in the end.
What's the most satisfying part of getting through something like that and having the reward at the end of it?
Honestly, the process, I remember all the times where, I took a step back and, I was able to reflect on, my time at Rutgers and, and then attacking it every single day, and I was, grateful to experience that.
Aaron, you've had some serious adversity as well. You lost your mom, Angie, to cancer here in the last year. Tell me about the impact that she had on your life.
Oh, let me tell you, man. My mom was my world. She taught me everything life-wise that I needed to know, and she left me with great, wonderful tools that I would be able to use in life. And I was always a mama's boy, if I'm being honest. She was just the one. She was a light in my life, if I'm being honest.
What were the tools that she gave you?
She taught me how to really just be myself. I remember young, I would love to be like this goofy little kid, just running around. It was like, who's this big 6'3" kid, just doing all this stuff. And sometimes it would get to me, but my mother always told me, like, just be yourself, because you're a great person, and you can make this world better. So she left me with that, and I think my mom was a really good leader. So she always taught me how to be the leader of the pack. Don't try to follow anyone, try to be different. Be different in what you do, be different in how you go about life. And she's left me with that. Now I love her.
That's a wonderful testament. Obviously, our condolences. What did it mean to have your whole team come to her funeral?
When I tell you I saw that and I didn't even know what to do. I was so shocked. I was just wow. And not shocked because I didn't think they would do it. Just seeing all those buses pull up in that moment, it's a lot to see. We preach family, trust chop. We preach family, and if that's not a definition of family, then I couldn't really tell you what was, because I had my brothers there in one of my darkest moments of my life, and they had my back. They had my back.
I want to take it back on the field, but again, incredibly well said.
Thank you.
Tell me about your season last year. I mean, you had 31 quarterback hits. That was the most in the Big Ten. It was the most in the Big Ten by a significant margin. What makes you so difficult to block?
I think my big thing is just having a motor, trying to make that play no matter what is happening, even if the play is on the other side of the field, running to the ball. It's just, I just try to outplay everybody on the field. I try to work hard and outplay that guy that I'm going against at that one moment, because you can't look too much into, you gotta just lock in and focus. So whatever that play is that one time, I'm gonna focus and do my hardest to get to whatever I have to do. And that's just the mentality that I've played with, and it's gotten success for me.
Johnny, I want to talk about your game a little bit. You're a jack of all trades. As we know, we mentioned you came to Rutgers as a quarterback. You played some quarterback. You run the ball quite a bit. You're a tight end, obviously, in the offense as well. What do you enjoy the most? Like, what is the one moment on a football field which you relish more than any other?
I'd have to say running the ball. There's not many feelings like that in the world. When you have that ball in your hand and half the field is trying to get at you and the other half is trying to protect you. So, that's just definitely my favorite part about the game.
Yeah. Has it been challenging for you personally to kind of have to play all these different roles, or how have you embraced it? Like, what was your mentality when you realized, okay, I'm not going to be the everyday starting quarterback, and here's how my career is going to go?
Honestly, I just have fun with it. At the end of the day, I get to get out there and play football, and the fact that I get to play all these different positions, I really get to experience like all these different things that normally I wouldn't be able to, So, I really cherish it.
I know you're an avid fisherman as well. What do you like about that?
I mean, I like everything about fishing. When I first started fishing, it was definitely more about how many fish I could catch or whatnot. But as I've gotten older, I've grown to really just love tying the hook. Taking the fish off the hook, or just small things, just a time out on the water. It's just something that I've always that I've grown to really love.
I want to leave you guys with this. You're all from the state of New Jersey.
Yep.
What do you see as the most defining characteristic of someone from that state?
Oh, being prideful and being gritty and being tough. Those are the main three things that, I really see in Jersey people and, us up here. So,
Johnny?
Yeah, I mean, New Jersey, we're tough, we're gritty, we're hard-nosed guys, and, I wouldn't want to go against us.
Aaron, we'll give you the last word on this.
Listen, I wouldn't want to go against the guy from New Jersey if I'm being honest. They're really, New Jersey guys are physical, and the big word that I like to use that everybody used was grit. Grit. Like you're going to claw, you're going to try to get it no matter what. It's just Jersey way, man. South Jersey. Southside.
Absolute pleasure talking to all three of you. Best of luck this season. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
With us here on the Big Ten Network. Coach, welcome. Literally one play away last year from playing for a national championship. How do you process that? How do you put last year into perspective? Do you use it as incentive? Do you not use it? What's the strategy for you?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think coming off of that last game, it took a while to process everything that went on during that month. And you just try to identify the things that, went wrong. Because, like you said, we'll play here, play there, and there's a whole different conversation. But it didn't happen. So, the focus really was trying to get as much experience back. Cade Stover, Tommy Eichenberg, Xavier Johnson. We got some veteran guys back off of this team. And so I feel like this is probably the most experience we've had, especially on defense, than we've had since 2019. I think that is really important. We were young the last couple years, and I think we'll have experience coming into this year, but the big focus has been on competing. Everything we've been doing is about competing and to try to find that one or two plays that can make the difference, especially in matchup games.
Coach, you've been in the quarterback battles before as a coach, trying to decide what usually separates the starter from the rest of them.
Yeah. I wish I could say it's one thing, but, over time you just kind of build a Rolodex of things you look for in a quarterback. I think, every throw isn't the same. When you're in 7-on-7, it's a second play of 7-on-7 and you throw a good ball, that's great. But it's a lot different when it's third down drill on 3rd and 3 and, you put the ball in the right spot, or you find the hot, or you make that throw to end a drive in the red zone. Those game-altering plays and those situations, where you have a play action set up and there's a guy open and you got to make that throw to go, score a touchdown. Those are the things you look for, and as time goes on, you try to identify those things the best you can as a coach. But also, you can't really figure in their feet until you get into a game where you're actually tackling. You can figure out a little bit in the pocket, but we have a couple quarterbacks that can move, and so we'll try to do the best we can to get a quarterback here for the first game, and then kind of see how the season goes.
So is a quarterback ever live in practice, a non-starter, someone who hasn't started? Do you ever cut the defense loose and let them sack him?
We've done it with like the 4th string before on a Wednesday practice to get the guys fired up, but that's about it.
Not during the competition, so you never know a first-time starter how they react to the pressure.
You got it.
Yeah.
And when you take those attributes that they come to the table with, but how about just being the starting quarterback at Ohio State? That's not an easy task. So that mental toughness has to also be a part of that process, correct?
There's so much that's a part of it. I'm been watching that Netflix, story, Quarterback, and Peyton Manning says, the hardest sport in hardest position in all of sports is quarterback, and it comes all those things that come with it. And certainly at Ohio State, you're going to be, scrutinized in so many different ways, and you're going to get a lot of the credit, which you have to be able to handle that. You have to handle the success, but also the blame when something doesn't go well, and you got to be able to handle that and continue to grow from that and build and be resilient. So, yeah, there's a lot that comes with it.
You have an offensive line you have to rebuild. How'd that go in the spring?
Yeah, I thought it was good. We did add some pieces here in the offseason. We bring on Josh Simmons, who's an offensive tackle from San Diego State. We brought in Vic Cutler. We have a couple freshmen that we feel like, I said after the spring, you're not freshmen anymore. You're going to have to come in and play. So I feel decent about our guards. They're coming back. They've played. Carson Hinsman, got the majority of the reps with the first team at center. He's going to have to take the next step and solidify himself as a starter, and then we got to find tackles.
Right.
We do have probably about 4 or 5 guys that are in contention there, so that's good. But we need guys to step up at starter level.
How do you prepare as a new play caller, Brian Hartline? He's graded all the other things he does, but what gets him ready? And how do you guys operate together so that when he steps out on the field or into the booth, it's secondhand or second nature for him?
I think the hardest thing about being a coordinator is the organization on a daily basis of organizing the offense, running the meetings, putting the install together, making sure the individual's right, making sure everybody's tied in together, make sure when you watch the film the corrections are being made, make sure everybody's on the same page. There's one voice in the run game and the pass game. I think those are all the game planning. Those are all the really important things as a coordinator. The play calling is part of it, but to me, that's the most important area. We'll figure the play calling out, but ultimately, that's the area where you have to grow as a coordinator. And that's, probably the thing that I had to learn as much more than anything as being a play caller. Was that it's all about the work you put in during the week and making sure everybody's on the same page. So the next progression for Brian is just that, like we're talking about, is being a coordinator, learning those type of things. He's got a great staff and a great environment to learn from, though.
Coach, you had some problems with some of your matchup opponents on defense. You're in the scheme his second year.
Yeah.
Is it just a matter of getting better at the scheme, or do you change things?
I think it's both. I think we have to do the things that fit our guys. And like you said, the explosive plays are what got us, in those two games. I thought we played really well in the Penn State game. I thought we played well in the Notre Dame game, which I think ultimately allowed us an opportunity to play in the playoffs, those two wins. Right. But we got an opportunity to go win championships, and we didn't do it because of the big plays. So we had to take a hard look at that in the offseason to figure out how to eliminate those. Also still being aggressive. We're not just going to sit back and take it either. We still have to be aggressive. But year two in the system, typically you're learning how to do it as opposed to what to do. And, I think Jim's taking a hard look at that, making sure we have the right guys in the right spot and finding that balance of being aggressive but not having those big plays.
Have you found yourself spending more time with the defense after the season?
Certainly thinking about the defense, having conversation. Right. Jim does a great job. He's hired to do a job. Right. But I think we've had a lot of great back and forth of just, hey, here's some things to think about. What do you think about that? And he's great. He'll listen, and sometimes he'll take it, sometimes he won't. But I also need to be there in the second half of the season this year for him to just now 7 years at Ohio State, just being around it and coming at it from a head coach's point of view. That's something I identified coming off of last year. You learn every year as a head coach, is that the first half of the season, the off season, feel very in tune with everybody on the whole program, making sure that the second half of the season I'm really there and in tune with the defense.
And the way you organize the offensive staff with Brian obviously has something to do with that.
Yeah, it does.
To allow you to do that.
We added Joe Philbin onto the staff as an analyst to help with some of the younger coaches. So I feel really good about where we are as an offensive staff. I feel really good where we are as a defensive staff. We just got to now play our best football at the end of the season.
Really talented group of linebackers being coached by a talented linebacker in James Laurinaitis. How have you watched him grow in the limited time you've had him during spring on the field and also now in the classroom?
So another huge addition to our staff is James. James has a great feel as a coach already. You can just see it. He's somebody that obviously played the position, so he demands credibility right away. But just listen to him for 5 minutes. You learn so much. He's got a great perspective, and I think he's connected well with those guys. And it's the most experience we've had. You got Tommy, you got Steele, you have Cody, C.J. Hicks is somebody that has had a great offseason. So, kind of like the 2019, crowd there. We got some experience, and that's important at linebacker.
What do you see as your team's biggest question mark heading into the year?
Yeah, I think it's filling those three spots on the O-line and quarterback. Everybody has to play. The defensive line has got to become guys that we can count on for, north of 60 plays a game. They have to carry the water up front. They can. They're older guys now. Those guys have all played. They're very talented. I feel the same way about the linebackers. We have more depth at corner than we've ever had, I think. The safeties are going to have to play at a high level. It's a safety-driven defense. I think the skill level that we have in terms of the wide receivers, running back, tight end is as good as we've had. So I think if you just say going into the preseason, those are the areas, the center, two tackles, and then the quarterback.
Do you have a time frame in your head for when you want to decide on the quarterback?
We've done it usually 2 weeks into the preseason camp with CJ and with Justin, Dwayne. So that would be great if one of the guys emerges. That's if somebody emerges. If they don't, then we'll keep working at it.
Does the fact that Devin was injured some in the spring, does that factor into wanting to give him a longer look? Or
I would have loved to see him play in the spring game and play in front of 80,000 people we had at our spring game, and just to get a feel for that. It didn't happen. Disappointing for him. He was disappointed. So, what does that mean? I don't know. Just it was one less exposure, but he'll have plenty of opportunity here in August.
Ryan, how much do you talk about last year? How much do you talk about not winning the Big Ten, not beating Michigan, but making the college football playoff. Like, do you message last year coming into this year, or is it just, hey, clean slate, let's not worry about it?
No, we talk about it. Yeah, you can't overdo it, but yeah, I mean, it's right there. We can't run away from it.
Right.
You know, and it's what motivates us every day. You know, our guys get tired of hearing of it. That's good. You know, we gotta do a better job and win those games next year. But at the same time, that can't be all you focus on. You know,
right.
We got to look forward and learn from those things. But it isn't just about that you didn't win those games. It's why didn't you win those games, and let's get them fixed.
Yeah. Ryan Day, head coach of the Buckeyes, always appreciate your time and your insights. We'll look forward to seeing you at camp here in a few weeks in Columbus.
You got it.
Thanks, Coach.
Right.